Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shadow at Night. This is June the 4th. One, two, three. Yeah, Tuesday, June the 4th, 2024. Special guest again on the show tonight for his fourth appearance in the last couple of years. Fan favorite Boyd Anderson. We're going to talk about the biospheres, UNESCO biospheres that exist in Canada, specifically the one in Saskatchewan, because that's where Boyd is. And Boyd was telling me a couple of days ago that he got into a conversation with one of the UNESCO guys. And I said, UNESCO guys, those are the guys behind these biospheres in our country. There are 19 of them in pretty much every province except for Newfoundland and Labrador and Nunavut, I think. And then every other province or territory has at least one. What are they? I think I've got a pretty good idea, but Boyd is going to fill us in more. And you know, when you've got Boyd Anderson on the show, it's like having the Canadian version of David Icke on the show. You're always going to get more. There's always going to be more. And of course, his book is still available on Amazon. And we'll get more into that a little bit later on when we bring Boyd Anderson onto the show. Hello, Linda. Linda's watching in Trenton tonight. Hello, Chuck in Kamloops. Hello, Carla in Calgary. Linda's watching in Lady Lake, Saskatchewan. Mireille is watching tonight in Lacombe. Hello, Julianne in Swan River. Kathy is in Chatham, Ontario. Leanne is watching in Merrickville, Ontario tonight. Hello, Janet in Aurelia. Grant is watching in somewhere in Ontario. Wallace is watching in Meadow Lake. Hello, Michael in Brampton. Elsie is watching in Winnipeg. Julie is watching in London, Ontario. Wayne and Patty are watching from Norwich, Ontario on X tonight. Hello, Diane, watching in Regina. Derek's watching in Kamloops. Hey, have they dug into the ground near that old residential school out there yet? No? I didn't think so. Hello, Danita, watching from Okotoks. Tracy is watching in Black Falls. Christine is in Anola. Debbie is watching in Oakbank. Willie is in the house. Hello, Tony, watching in Calgary, and Lauren is watching in Southeast Saskatchewan. Wherever you're watching tonight, what you're watching on Facebook, X, doesn't matter. Let's get it out there. Share it, like it, repost it, heart it. Let's get it out there to as many people as we possibly can. Over on Rumble, I don't like to forget the Rumble people. Jasmine Cat is watching. DJ 42067 is watching. Esky Dogs, Vilma, You Go Girl, Roberta Ailes 1963 is watching. Wanna Keeper in Alberta, Nuts, Mouth of the South, MW 1963, Wayne New N is watching tonight. Midnight Oil, if you're watching on Rumble, let's get it out there with a thumbs up. That actually really helps to get it out there to the 100 million strong Rumble community. There are 100 million users on Rumble. Still a fraction of what YouTube has. I think YouTube's got 1.4 million. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube tonight, you're in the minority, but welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Anyway, getting back to Rumble, please share this by hitting the share button beneath the screen. That's going to highlight the URL above the screen. From there, you can copy and paste into your favorite whatever. Again, let's get it out there to as many people as we possibly can. The show is brought to you by Canada Nano Silver, canadanosilver.ca. Simplify your daily immune support with convenient and delicious Nano Silver Immune Gummies. Each serving contains powerful triple action Nano Silver, elderberry, vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D3. This will help supercharge your immune system. It is safe. It's proven. It's Nano Silver and Silverceutical technology. It works alongside your body's own immune system, helps you stay healthy and strong for everything that life throws at you. Get this and all the other amazing products online, canadanosilver.ca. If you're not into shopping online, some people aren't still, and I can get that, I suppose. We should embrace the technology, not the people that run the technology. There's a difference there, which is one of the things we're trying to change. So shop online or not, it's up to you, but they've already got all of your information anyway. So trying to avoid it now is kind of a moot thing, right? But if you want a retail location, there could be a retail location right down the street from you. Check it out on the retail locations tab on the website. And if you would like to become a retailer of these awesome products, get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at canadanosilver.ca. That is canadanosilver.ca. Here's a look at the book, Under the Radar, 537-555, Trump Pence. It's a book released 7 years ago by our guest tonight, Boyd Anderson. Welcome back to the show, Boyd. Thank you for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it. Um, it's been a while, like 2 weeks, and we promised everybody that we would have you back on a little bit sooner because we wanted to talk about the biospheres. And in your last appearance, we didn't get the chance to do that because we got onto so many other things there with Dale Richardson. So you told me, what was it, 2 or 3 days ago, that you had a conversation with one of the UNESCO guys who is running the Saskatchewan Biosphere. Is that true?
Oh yeah, John Kinderchuk. Yeah, he's there's a little town called Hafford, Saskatchewan, about 10 miles from Redberry Lake. Redberry Lake is a bird sanctuary, and I had never been like inside the park, but my friend drove me in, and we had a look around the lake. I thought it was really pristine, and it is in most areas, but the Southwest has a lot of cabins right on the waterfront and lots of trailers, lots of motorhomes parked there. And they're allowing, right now, they're actually allowing more motorhomes in there, which I don't quite understand. But I guess they're going to let it go a little bit for a year, maybe or two. Um, the
You
whole
know, it could be
idea,
that they're doing, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Boyd, but
yeah,
it could be that they're giving people something only to take it away from them later because they don't you don't know what you got till it's gone, right?
exactly, exactly. So yeah, we had a chat. John has an assistant. His name's Terry, and you know, it was a light conversation. I was with another person from that area, so I just sort of sat back. But eventually, I brought up the fact that it's all about not only creating tourism physically, but it's pertaining to the 15-minute cities. And what I mean by that is that they're it's about digital. It's about converging biology with digital technology. And what I'm trying to say is Israel is doing all of this technology development out of Tel Aviv. That's where Microsoft moved their head office. And what they did is they brought in the CEO of Microsoft. They put him in charge. He's now the general manager of the Seattle Kraken hockey team because that'll be the first digitized hockey team. Okay, because just across the
Wait,
border.
wait, 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 wait. What do you mean a digitized hockey team? What does that even look like? What is that?
Well, I think we all understand. Like I had a conversation last time I was on, and I explained how they've been putting biosensors into everyone. Do you want me to read
Yeah.
that again?
Yeah, please go ahead because we
Okay.
need to
Okay.
remind, obviously, and if it's convenient for you.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Some of my friends have Lincolns, but I have two cataracts, so my eyesight's not too good. But yeah, it's all about transhumanization. The leader of transhumanization today is in Vancouver. They're called D-Wave. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're leading the world globally in transhumanization. So you got the and when Donald Trump's lawyer Sidney Powell released the Kraken on the winter solstice of 2020, 2020
Yeah.
being the twins, because this is all about creating a digital twin. This is why Malaysian Airline 370 had an identical twin, which was MH17. The whole theme of this convergence, going from the old world into the new world, is all about creating digital twins. So I'll just read some of this to you. Um, Back in 1956, they started to create biosensors in humans by adding it into the air, the water, the food. And by 1995, they created the Wireless Wide Body Area Network. In 2017, they did a system upgrade. It's called the Cyber Physical Backbone. And this is how Carl or Klaus Schwab. He talks about the fourth industrial revolution. But in 2019 and 2022, they had the COVID deployment. Now, this whole biosensor involving humans was created by the IEEE. This is the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. They're in 190 countries in the world. And this has been done to the public covertly for decades. Biosensors and how they are working, they need four main components in a body, in a human body. First of all, they need an analyte, which is a chemical or a biological material that gives the electron reaction as it is connected so that it could be your DNA, your proteins, the thing that's in your body that's about to be analyzed and changed. This is why the mRNA now is in everything. And the mRNA contains triethylene glycol, which makes water more soluble. So if a duck tried to swim in water that contains triethylene glycol, they'd sink. This is how soluble it is. So it not only penetrates the cell membrane, but it gets right into the nucleus of the cell in your body. And the body then does what it does best. It replicates, it duplicates. And this is synthetic DNA mixing in with natural DNA. The number two thing it needs is a receptor, which is also known as the recognition layer that binds to the target component. That could be cells, enzymes, nucleic acid, antibodies. And also, number three, it needs transducers, which act as an interface measuring the production that occurs with the bioreceptor, transforming it into an energy measurement. The transducers can be done in the form of optical, electrochemical, piezoelectric, and thermal. The fourth thing it needs is a signal, the signal component that displays the information. Now, I would love to show you or play you a quick video. Can I do that?
Do you have it handy?
I've got it all ready to go.
Okay. I wonder
And
if we
this
can.
will explain it quite well. But the biospheres, what is a biosphere reserve? Excuse me, I have to get up close here for my, eyesight. But biosphere reserves this is on the UNESCO website. UNESCO is the education part of the United Nations. They work together with UNDRIP. I think everybody is knowledgeable about UNDRIP, but it all works together, okay? I look at this as a bit of a land grab, personally, because the biospheres have an inner core which surrounds, say, Redberry Lake and the shoreline, and you have to have special permission to enter the core. Then they have a secondary boundary, and then they have a third boundary that is expandable, because it's the goal. Their goal by 2030 for sure is to create 52% of North America into a wildlife reserve and move the residents into these 15-minute cities. Saskatoon and Edmonton just announced that they are 15-minute cities now, and they are building literally thousands of apartments that abut right up to the sidewalk, because there will be much need for cars. You'll have to either walk or ride a bicycle, and you're allowed to go within the 15-minute walking distance of your residence. But getting back to what is a biosphere reserve, the biosphere reserves.
Well, Boyd, hang on for a second here. Like, you talk about the Wildlands Project, which is slated. This comes from the White House, by the way, this map. And this is the Wildlands Project slated for completion in 2050. And this is a map of the United States, obviously broken down into different colors here, with the black dots being the human settlements, the cities, the mega cities, as you talk about, the 15-minute cities. And then the green zones, if you can see them there in the map, you guys, if you're watching right now, cooperation zones where people are allowed to stay and road remains open. Then you've got the yellow zones, which is pretty much the majority of it. Buffer zones where human activity is tightly regulated, the road network is limited, and natural resources are extracted. And then you've got the red zones, wilderness areas and corridors where all human presence and activity is strictly prohibited except for research. All roads there will be closed permanently, something that some Americans in the countryside reported has already begun to happen this year. And by the way, this came out 10 years ago now, this map. So there it is there. As you can see, the green zones, yellow, red, that's what it looks like. That's the Wildlands project that was conceived of in 1992. We've lost Boyd for a moment. So let's throw his book back up on the screen here. Well, hang on. Why don't we throw up UNESCO and what UNESCO is? The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, specialized agency of the United Nations with the aim of promoting world peace, security through international cooperation. Again, this is from Wikipedia, so don't believe any of it, right? Wikipedia has already been co opted by the CIA, apparently. So the original, and that's what the original owner of the creator of Wikipedia has said. He's no longer involved with Wikipedia anymore. UNESCO, United Nations, 194 member states, 12 associate members, as well as partners in the non governmental, intergovernmental, and private sector. They are headquartered in Paris. So let's bring Wade back on right now. Wade, I can find the video and throw it up. Boyd, sorry, Wade. where, where did where did Wade come from? Oh, you know what it was? I saw a video of a guy on YouTube earlier today. It was a very compelling video, actually, talking about democracy being a big lie. And it's the Wade Show starring Wade on YouTube. But anyway, I can find Boyd. I can find this video on the UNESCO site and throw it up. Is it the Our Vision?
No, I just sent you the email.
Oh, did you? All right. Let's see if I can find it here. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So anyway, this conversation with the UNESCO guy, did it reveal anything to you, or did it seem like the guy even knew what was really going on at all?
Well, yeah, they know what's going on. John, he's been there for 20 years. They've had a pavilion on the main street of Hafford for about 20 years. So yeah, he knows what's going on. When I brought up the fact that they're trying to promote tourism, both physically, and what they want to do is create apps on your iPhone, and so that when people are living in these 15-minute cities, they will be able to put on their 5G or 5D glasses and experience the beauty and nature of Redberry Lake. Right in their living rooms. So
without ever having to be there. It's just like, so you're stuck in your 15-minute city, but your digital twin gets to go and experience the beauty of Redberry Lake. Is that it?
Yeah, it fits in with Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse and Elon Musk's Neuralink. Right. So this is why the government or the University of Saskatchewan are out there all the time. And it's basically a data collection because they want to create a digital twin for everything on the planet. Yeah, if you could play this, I would appreciate it.
Okay, let's mute ourselves so we don't get a lot of feedback and blow each other's ears out here, and then we can come back once the video's over.
Sure.
All fields of medicine are changing, improving, renewing. The past year showed us that the growing need for innovative technology.
Wait a minute, boy. This is 20. You want to play the whole thing? It's 21 minutes. It's 21 minutes long, man. We're gonna play the. I can't hear you. Unmute for a second. We're gonna play the whole thing. You're muted. I can't hear you.
I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay, just wave your arms and I'll stop it.
Technologies used of this revolution is Israel.
The Israeli high-tech environment is one of the leading environments or ecosystems that can enable this.
We have some of the best scientists in the world.
People think outside the box and look for creative solutions to problems. Yes, Israel is an international center of innovation with groundbreaking technologies in health, in cyber, in smart transportation, and alternative energy. Israeli innovation in the field of personalized medicine combines biology and engineering. It's called bioconvergence. What exactly is bioconvergence?
Biomics is the only clinical stage phage company out there that targets chronic indication. We deploy phage, which are viruses that infect specific bacteria.
NanoRetina developed a small camera that is implanted inside a patient's eye. Our technology translates light and optical signals into electrical pulses that enables vision to the patient.
The technology that we have developed is under the title bioconvergence.
We have chemistry, engineering, biology, immunology.
Besides bio, it biofabricates tissues from human cells. We take 3D printing and we combine this together with the biology, which essentially brings us the capability to fabricate the tissue in the same anatomical structure as it is in the human body.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Because when you're able to collaborate with multidisciplinary capabilities like ICT, big data, machine learning, and artificial intelligence, then you can create integrative, creative, and innovative medical solutions. The Israel Innovation Authority creates national and international networks and provide with funding to initiate projects.
Many of Israel's startup nation streams parallel Jefferson streams.
Because of Israel's exceptional innovation ecosystem, we've developed a series of creative partnerships across a spectrum of Israeli institutions.
So let me ask you a question. If Israel is at the forefront of bioconvergence, with the world's most advanced technologies and some of the world's leading medical research centers, and when $40 billion worth of worldwide profits from medicines stem from Israeli inventions, can you afford not to be here?
Okay, I'm assuming that's
What I'm trying to say is all the technology is being done in Israel. And of course, it needs someone in the world to create the policies. And that is being done by Policies Horizon in Canada. So Canada and Israel are in partnership. And it's all to do about bringing China in as the world leader. So, I mean, I was told many times in Dubai, you know, the U.S. is going down, the U.S. is going down. And so when the U.S. goes down, the American empire goes down, there's always an empire that's on the rise, and that is China. And what they want to do is create tourism so that the peasants of the world, like myself, the people who are put into these 15-minute cities, they will be restricted. But to give them some entertainment other than video games, they will be able to download apps and put on their 5D glasses, which are being created at the University of Saskatchewan. By the way, they just started a space program that fits right in with Elon Musk's SpaceX and Neuralink. Because, of course, Elon Musk loves Saskatchewan. His mother was born here. His grandmother was born in Moose Jaw. It's all part of the so-called Saskatchewan mafia, the Bronfmans, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the royal family. And so what basically I mentioned this to the guys when I was chatting with them. I said, I know you're trying to create tourism, but it's not only physical, because when we're locked down into these 15-minute cities, the upper echelon, the elite, so-called elite, they'll be able to run around the world, fly anywhere in the world, and they'll have like privacy because we will all be locked up. So they're creating a division, obviously. And this is what's happening. And so when I said that to them, you know, one fella said about 4 times, well, there's nothing nefarious going on here. And but John, he actually brought his cell phone out and he said, yeah, look at here, Boyd, here's an app. for the bird watchers. I mean, this is just a first step to what they want to eventually their goal. But and he downloaded an app for the birds and all this, which is fine. But what I'm trying to say is this also goes together with Monette Farms in Saskatchewan, who is buying up all the farmland. This is Brad Wall, who was involved with the Regina bypass and very, very criminal activities he does. And this Jim Pattison, who has his name on the Children's Hospital at the University of Saskatchewan, another untrustworthy gentleman. And also you have China and Saudi Arabia and Bill Gates, and they're buying up all the farmland. Now, at the same time, they've created a biosphere right on the outside of Saskatoon at what they call Wanuskewin. And, what they're doing there is they're bringing back the buffalo. And, because the native Aboriginals don't really know how to raise buffalo because they were never into raising buffalo. They were into, eating them and using them for everything. So they had to bring in a gentleman from Bigger, Saskatchewan, to run the herd and to grow the herd. And eventually that will be another, creating another digital twin. But what these biospheres are really is a data collection site for the students of the University of Saskatchewan to come in and collect data on every living thing in that area. I'm talking trees, plants, birds, you name it, so that they can create this digital virtual reality. And it's a moneymaker because,
Wow.
they'll bring in
know
people
what?
from China physically, the
Yeah.
people with the Bitcoin money that they've cashed in. But also, all these apps will cost money. Now, the people buying up all the farmland, like Monette Farms, obviously they'll be growing canola, which is, again, synthetic DNA mixed with natural DNA. Canola oil is not really fit for the human body. It's very unhealthy for humans. And yet all the restaurants are using it. That's why I do not eat out at restaurants anymore. But because, when the Canadian Wheat Board, they sold out to Saudi Arabia back in 2016. I know I'm mixing a few things in, but it's all related. They sold the Canadian Wheat Board out of Winnipeg for $250 million in 2016. Now, at the time, Bitcoin had dropped down. This is just after Malaysian Airlines 370 had taken place. So Bitcoin had dropped down to around $300 in 2016, early 2016. And this is when the Canadian Wheat Board received $250 million from Saudi Arabia, but they could have got $1 billion for it. I mean, they own freight cars, they own ships, but they settled for $250 million because they put it right into Bitcoin immediately and the blockchain. So when it went up to 65,000 2 years ago, they cashed out. And that was trillions of dollars. We're talking trillions of dollars, which is never talked about. Nobody talks about it. Nobody mentions it. But this is why now today you've got all the large accounting firms like Deloitte & Touche, KPMG, all the accounting firms in the smaller areas pushing the farms, because farms today are all incorporated due to the tax reasons. And so they got all these incorporated farms, all the mining corporations, the dentists are all getting together into groups to create corporations, and they're all being talked into getting onto the blockchain because they say, the blockchain is the most transparent way to do business. It's very honest. Everybody knows what's going on. But what they don't realize is that there's a secret back door from the blockchain into the Swiss Jewish bankers. Okay. I read this in the 20-page document that they handed me in 2008. Okay. So
Is that all in the book, Boyd? I'm sorry that I called you
no,
Boyd earlier. That was just a
no,
Freudian
no,
slip.
no. I put the fact that the Canadian Wheat Board was sold for 250 million in 2016. That's in my book. A lot of things happened in 2016. That's when the RCMP of Canada received $100 million. Okay, that was another payoff because they do all the Queen's dirty work, and that was called. They blamed it on sexual harassment within the organization, but it was just a way to split up the cash. Another thing happened in 2016 that people need to know about, and it's all about the BlackBerry phone that was, developed at the University of Waterloo. Okay, David Johnson, our former Governor General, another criminal, was the dean of the University of Waterloo. This is where I owned a penthouse at the Seagram Barrels warehouses, which overlooked the Perimeter Institute, which is quantum theoretical physics on the same level as Cambridge, England. So they developed the BlackBerry, which runs on a completely different platform. It's a military platform, totally separate from the other cell phones. Okay. I don't know if people know that. But in 2016, what they did in early 2016, they brought in a Mennonite gentleman from British Columbia. His name was Cameron Ortis. And they put him in charge of the National Intelligence Center in Ottawa, which is above the law. It's above the RCMP. This Polson, who was in charge of the RCMP, he says, "Yeah, I don't know what that was all about, but yeah, he was a real bad guy. A lot of people quit because he was such an ignorant, arrogant guy. But the reason they brought in Cameron Ortis, and this was done by the federal government, because he was a Bitcoin cryptocurrency guy. He knew how to trade in cryptocurrencies. So between 2016 and early 2017, of course, 2017 is when Bitcoin went from $400 right up to 25,000 US by Christmas time. Okay. But they found over 30,000 gutted BlackBerry phones that were all encrypted inside, so they weren't traceable. And this is what Hillary Clinton used in all her dealings with Libya and that whole thing. And Mark Rich, who created Glencore, this is related to Richard Leibel, who they kicked out of Canada here, Saskatchewan. He was involved with changing the Saskatchewan legislature way back in the year 2000 to allow Asian money to come into Saskatchewan to buy up all the farmland. And so they deported him out of here. That was with the CIA and the Saskatchewan government. They sent him to Bangkok to look after the gold. Okay, the gold, the 55,500 tons of gold that I mentioned in my book. That's what my book is all about, is the 55,500 tons of gold. Well, Richard was put in charge of looking after that gold. And 15 years prior, in 1984, the U.S. deported Mark Rich from Long Island. He was part of the Israeli Mossad. They both were, okay? And the main character in my book, Thomas, was a part of the Mossad too. He wore a Jewish kippah under a baseball hat, and he worked for the CIA and Israel. And so when they deported Mark Rich out of the United States, he created Glencore. And then Glencore, and for years, he was in the Ukraine selling guns and armaments, like nuclear weapons, the whole deal, in the Ukraine. Okay? And this is where both MH370 and MH17 went down. Okay?
Wasn't he selling it with Brian Mulrooney? Wasn't Brian Mulrooney somehow involved in that, or am I off base here now?
Yeah, they all were. But the main culprit was Stephen Harper. He sent our Canadian military to the Ukraine on January 1st, 2014, and he stationed them in the northern part of the Ukraine. Well, they already knew where MH370 would land because they exploded it in midair. If people watch my videos, you get the whole story. But it crashed, it exploded, and it caused 3.5-foot divots in the ground in the northern part of the Ukraine where our Canadian military was stationed. And the RCMP sent over 12 of their officers as well. And they used the excuse that they were training the Ukrainians army, which is a total bunch of BS. They were there to do the cleanup of MH370. Those bodies had been drained of blood and they were smelling of rot and decomposition. And the body parts were spread 33 kilometers apart. When Tom Lysiak died, my old centerman from my hockey line, Lanny McDonald, Tom Lysiak died of leukemia in 2016. And his best friend, one of his best friends, worked for the American Air Authority. And his wife, Linda, by the way, he died on my hockey record number, 5307. I scored 5 goals in 3 minutes and 7 seconds. Right. Tom Lysiak died on May the 5th month, 30th, 530 at 7 in the morning. His wife, Melinda, had to call me, and she sent me a business card, and I have it on my website. My website is under the radar 537555.com. When he died. And anyway, I talked to his friend for over 2 hours one night back in 2016. And he basically confirmed. He said, Boyd, I was in the Ukraine. I was there with the Canadian military cleaning up all these dead bodies. He said there were way too many bodies for one plane. Okay, and if you watch my videos on Rumble, just go to Boyd Anderson. I have a channel there. But see, MH370 went down in the northern part of the Ukraine. MH17, the identical twin, went down in the southern part, the Donetsk area where they were fighting. But again, but they didn't blow it. They were both loaded with onboard explosives. So they didn't explode MH17 until it was closer to the ground. So it didn't spread as far. But all those people on board MH17, you see, they were on their way to a conference. They were all brilliant scientists and medical people who had cures for cancer and all kinds of diseases. And they were heading again back to Kuala Lumpur. And it's a long story. I can't tell the whole thing tonight. But if people go on my Rumble channel, please listen to my videos and get the whole story. Because when you add up the total amount of people on both flights, there were 239 aboard MH370. There were 298 aboard MH17. You add them up, what do you get? 537. Okay? Numbers don't lie. Okay, Donald Trump, for example. I'm skipping around a bit here, but I know
wait. Like, okay, we can pick up with Donald Trump, but people are asking when you talked about Kraken, right? And you brought this up before on the show. You said the Kraken, release the Kraken. Sidney Powell said we're going to release the Kraken. And then they name a hockey team, an NHL hockey team, the Kraken, a few years after that. I didn't even know what a Kraken was until 4 or 5 years ago. Until somebody said to me, it's a fictional sea monster or something. Yes. And I went, oh, okay, that's interesting. Kraken, cool. And now it seems everywhere. So what's going on with Kraken? Can you explain Kraken, please? That's a code word.
Absolutely. Yeah. In that 20-page document they gave me, first of all, it was all about Bitcoin and all the cryptos. And it showed how they're going up and down, up and down. It showed Ethereum, XRP, the Monero, all of them. And you see, I'm just going to talk a little quickly here about FTX. Okay, you know Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Sam Bankman-Fried was just a front man, okay, for the World Economic Forum. But it's the owners of FTX, Barry and Alan Silbert, who are on page 9 in my book. And page 284, These guys own Bit Premier, and these were the guys that bought the villa in Bali for the pilot of MH370. Okay? They gave him $10 million and a villa in Bali. These guys bought it, for him. He hung out there for many, many years. Okay? But getting back to the 20-page document, after I read all about the cryptos, and I'll tell you quickly what's going to happen to them. They're going to skyrocket Bitcoin. See, once FTX went down with bankruptcy, that they were doing all the money laundering, and for the World Economic Forum, for the Mexican cartel, it was all being done, called the Paradise Papers, out of the Bahamas. This is why when Obama retired as president, he hung out with Richard Branson, who hangs out in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean. Okay, but anyway, FTX. You see, this Barry and Alan Silbert, a couple of, I don't mind. I'm Icelandic. The Icelanders are heavily involved with this too. But Barry and Alan Silbert, being Jewish, connected to Thomas. I didn't know this at the time, but they were the first depositors for Silicon Valley Bank, Signature, and Silvergate, because they used those three banks in Silicon Valley to launder all their Bitcoin and cryptocurrency money. Okay. Now, when FTX went bankrupt just last fall, that tells me that the elite have sold all their cryptos. Okay. Now, you got to understand, China owns 65% of all the cryptos. They got in first with Iceland. Okay, Iceland is where they mine all the cryptos. So getting back to what's going to happen, my prediction here is they're going to skyrocket Bitcoin because everybody's going to lose faith in the dollar, and they don't know what to do. They buy silver and gold, and then they buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. So it skyrockets this fall, and by, I would say, the Feast of Trumpets, which is September 23rd, it'll crash. They're going to crash Bitcoin, and that's releasing the Kraken. They always test the Kraken out. They test everything out before they do it. So they tested out the Kraken in 2016 when they tested it out on Ethereum, because Ethereum is really the only crypto that will continue upward and onward after 2020, the end of 2025. Okay.
Why is that? Why Ethereum?
Ethereum.
Why
is being developed again at the University of Waterloo, where they developed the BlackBerry. Okay. It's all very, very criminal. Their emblem symbol is the pentagram, and it's all about Luciferianism. But so they tested out the Kraken in June of 2016. At Christmas time of 2016, Ethereum was valued at $10. By June 5th, I think it was June 15th, around there, it had gone up to $388, Ethereum. And that's when they released the Kraken. And it went from $388 down to 10 cents and back up again in 2 seconds. So anybody who had unsecure wallets, or they lost their Ethereum. Okay, it's there to eat up all the unsecured wallets on the internet, and also anybody within these exchanges. Like, there's a exchange, the largest exchange. It's out of San Francisco, called Kraken. Okay, and it's a cryptocurrency exchange. You can buy precious metals as well. But you see, when Malaysian Airlines 370 took place in 2014, that's when Bitcoin crashed from $1,100 right down to $250. And that's who they put. Who did they put in charge as the regulator for cryptos? Is the Kraken out of San Francisco. Now,
So when they say release, when Sidney Powell said release the Kraken, was she trying to send us a message, or is she part of the whole thing? And that was
oh
just kind of
no, she's involved with
what.
Donald Trump as a Shabbat Lubavitch.
Okay,
He's
so you were talking about Trump. I want to hear about Trump. Like let's put the cards on the table here. You have
okay.
kind
Let
of bandied
me ask
around the bush
everybody
a
a
little bit.
question.
I want to hear about Trump because
Okay,
everybody thinks that, well, not everybody, but some people think that Trump is one of the good guys. He's going
now
to lead us out of this crap, and I don't know if that's true. And you say absolutely not.
that is, he is leading us into our own destruction. Okay, what people don't understand, and I'll put a question out there right now to everybody in your audience. Use the chat. Please tell me who Trump's best friend and business partner is. Okay, and I'll wait a few minutes and see if anybody answers that.
All right.
But Donald Trump was given a $30 million penthouse in Dubai when I was there in 2007. Okay. And that was given to him from the ruler of Dubai. Okay. Now, I honestly did not know if Donald Trump was involved or not. When he was running for president, I sent him text messages and emails. And see, Ron Greshner, a personal friend of mine who played for the New York Rangers for 16 years, Ron and I started together in Estevan, Saskatchewan. When I was 15, we were both 15. And then we both got drafted by the New York Rangers together the same year. And we both went to Providence together in the American League. And then after only spending 5 games in Providence, Ron was brought up to the New York Rangers. Now, Ron became really good friends with Trump, and I didn't know that, okay? There's a lot more to this story, but I can't take all night telling it. So, anyway, I'm trying to get a hold of Trump. I'm saying, do you know who did MH370? Do you know about the gold? Do you know who created cryptocurrencies? Like that whole 16-year plan was written by Richard Leibel out of Regina, Saskatchewan, right? He was sent over there by the Saskatchewan government and the Alberta government, basically, and the Manitoba government, because they had to find a way to get the natural resources out of the ground. How do you think BHP Billiton, the largest mining company in the world, how do you think they put in $20 billion into a potash mine in Saskatchewan? It was all free money. It was created out of thin air. It's called Bitcoin, okay, and crypto. So anyway, so the only person to reply from the grand old party with Trump was Newt Gingrich. And he's a complete Zionist, Freemason. And he said, Boyd, please donate $1 to let us know you're with us and not against us. And I thought he was talking about the election. And I said, listen, I'm Canadian. And I left it at that. But he's talking about this whole New World Order takeover. You see, so anyway, I'm trying to get a hold of Trump, and then I trying to do a movie about my story, and I fly down to Hollywood to do talk to James Catroci, the director, producer. And he said, we got to raise $12 million to do a movie like this because we got to get the airplanes, we got to get a studio. So a friend of mine who was a best friends with Tom Lysiak was Kurt Walker, an old Toronto Maple Leaf. And Kurt, for many years, had set up trade shows for a group of dentists. So he knew all the billionaires. And I'll get back to Kurt later. But anyway, because Kurt's no longer living, and I'll tell you what happened. But anyway, so Trump gets voted in as president. And on his New Year's Eve party, after, 1st of January, he announces to the world that his best friend and business partner attended his Mar-a-Lago New Year's Eve party. And his name is Hussein Sazwani. Well, Hussein Sazwani came into Thomas's office 10 times when I was there. I hooked him up to my quantum biofeedback device twice. He is the one who put up $600 million for the Malaysian airline gold heist. Him, the ruler of Dubai, the ruler of Abu Dhabi, and the ruler of Saudi Arabia. Mohammed bin Salman, I met him 10 times in Thomas's office. And I didn't know who he was at the time, but it's easy to recognize these guys because I saw them so much. And I also rubbed shoulders with al-Baghdadi. he's born of Jewish parents. And so anyway, getting back to Mohammed bin Salman, I did the research on him. I didn't put it in my book, but I have to write another book because, you know, in 2007, when he started coming into Thomas's office, and I'm sitting there like a fly on the wall, playing backgammon on my laptop, and they're like 10 feet away talking. And because Mohammed bin Salman had just completed his university education in Cairo, in Egypt. So, just south of Cairo is where they discovered the Nag Hammadi scrolls. And in those Nag Hammadi scrolls is the Gospel of Thomas that was never put in the Bible. But these are all Gnostic Christians in the Middle East, in Eurasia, in India. It's full of Gnostic Christians, Zoroastrian, but they believe they were introduced Christianity by Saint Thomas. So they follow the Gospel of Thomas. And, you know, if you read the Gospel, it's 114 logians. And if you read it all, you'll understand this whole movement, okay? And so they got
which movement? You mean like what's going on right now? This movement,
absolutely,
like this whole,
yeah,
the Gospel of Thomas.
Yes, and
write it down, guys.
I figured it all out. I put a bunch of those on my blog, on my website. But the first Logian, this is a private meeting that the 12th disciple, Didymus Judas Thomas, had with Jesus Christ. Didymus in Aramaic and Greek, because the Old Testament of the Bible originally was written in Greek. So when you look up Didymus in Greek and in Aramaic, it means twin. It means testicle, which is twin. Thomas in Hebrew and Jewish means twin. This is why 2 planes crashed into the Twin Towers. Supposedly, they were holograms, but we all know that. This is why the Titanic had a twin, the Olympic, which is the one that sunk. Okay, because they had to collect insurance on it. It had so many dents and scratches on it. They repainted it as the Titanic, and they painted the real Titanic the Olympic. They switched them. And this is why MH370 had an identical twin, MH17. Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus, the twins. Romulus was the evil one who killed Remus. It's always good versus evil. And when I talked to Thomas for hours that year. We sat in his office and talked for hours, and I told him about my ex-wife in Kitchener-Waterloo. We had twins, and one died at birth and one lived. And it's all about the Gospel of Thomas. When the second Logian, I'll just tell you a couple, because I don't want to take all night telling you, but the second Logian says, actually the first Logian says, he who understands these Logians will not taste death. That's why they haven't killed me. They haven't bumped me off, because I have the numbers, and I'll go through that with you tonight. But also the second Logian says, he who seeks should not stop seeking until he finds. And when he finds, he will be disturbed. And then he will marvel, and then he will reign over all. And this is what I'm going through. I've been watching this thing roll out since 2008, basically. Well, I didn't take it serious until MH370 went missing, because I didn't know how they could get 55,500 tons down to Perth. That's where they had to remelt it, because this was old Babylonian gold. This was Solomon's gold. Okay, the Shah of Iran was looking after it. And when they created that 53, again, the number 53, hostages in 2000, or when was that, 1979, 79 is the atomic number for gold. That's when that was a diversion. And who was the hero of getting those hostages out of Tehran, Iran, was a Canadian. Canada's behind this whole thing. So when they created that diversion, that's when they moved the 55,000 tons over to Thailand. And they put it on a U.S. military base. And it sat there since 1979, okay? This is when and then they sent Richard Leibel over there in the year 2000 to look after it. And it took Richard 7 years to write this 16-year plan. He put this whole thing together. There were 10 pages on the coronavirus. He's a sick man. These are sick people. But it's all about the love of money is the root of all evil. So now all these canola crushing plants, they've quadrupled the size of them.
When you talk about
canola oil is not fit for the human body. It's poison. And so all the restaurants, because they're jacking the prices up for everything. They create this ridiculous money laundering war in the Ukraine. You got to understand, Putin, who's totally involved with Donald Trump, and Zelensky and Biden, they're all involved. Obama, Stephen Harper, who is now the CEO or what he's called the International Democracy Union. Trump actually answers to Stephen Harper.
That's interesting. When we talk about all of these people who are involved, because, and again, guys, and I know that Boyd has been jumping around a lot in the storytelling, and you guys, some of them, Boyd, they're getting a little bit frustrated with the because you're here, you're there, you're here, you're there, and I get that you've got a lot of information to share. You don't have to give it all to us in one night. We totally understand that, and you pointed that out a couple of times.
But if you want to talk about Trump, he's a Freemason. Yeah. He's Jewish. He converted to the Chabad Lubavitch. You see, when who's behind this whole thing? I'll tell you quickly. It's the City of London, the royal family. You got to understand, the day Brexit happened, June 23rd of 2016, you would think Prince Edward, the biggest Zionist Freemason in the royal family, you would think he'd be in England. But where was he? Check it out. You can Google all my information. He was in Regina, Saskatchewan, handing out awards at the University of Regina. It's called Campion College, the only Jesuit school in Western Canada. Who do we have in Rome as the Pope? The first Jesuit Pope in the history of the world. Okay?
Now, when you talk about the Jesuits, because this is something that you had told in a previous appearance on the show, you were talking about Thomas, your buddy out there. And you had walked into his office at one point because you said you were outside playing a video game or something, and you'd walked into his office and you startled him a bit. He turned around and he said to you, "Oh, I thought you were a Jesuit." And I went, "Okay, the Jesuits, the Jesuit."
I never ever said that, Shadow.
Well, it's not.
Else.
No, it's.
No, I never ever said that.
In my memory.
I never.
But,
no, I used to sit in his office. He took a shine to me. He loved me. He because of my numbers. Okay, and he was on the phone all the time, talking.
Yeah, but my question to you is: are they afraid of the Jesuits? The Jesuits are an order of the Catholic Church. They are a different order, kind of like
they're the Pope's military. Thomas was high up Jesuit. He wore a Jewish kippah. He prayed twice a day. I mean, he was the main planner. He was very evil, man. And Richard Leibel was the same. He was being paid big dollars. If people don't watch my videos on Rumble, it's hard for me to explain the whole thing, but I'll just touch on Trump recently. Just let me talk. I just touched on Trump recently, okay? Trump, this is all planned out. Everything that is going on today is completely planned out by the Chabad Lubavitch, the Dunma Jew. This is why they flew me to Turkey. And Erdogan is a Dunma Jew. They all fake like they're Christian or Muslim or whatever. And see, the royal family of Saudi, Mohammed bin Salman, he's a crypto Jew, okay? And don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm Icelandic Canadian. They're mining all the cryptos in Iceland. They use the thermal energy from underground to cool all these huge mining rigs, okay? For many, many years, Iceland laundered trillions of dollars through offshore accounts. They only have 4 banks in Iceland. They all got together around 2000 and just started printing money. I can send you videos on that too, but it was a complete scam. It's called the Panama Papers, and then it turned into the Paradise Papers, and now it's the Pandora Papers. But if you want to know about Trump, here we go. If you go to the back cover of my book, you will see the Saturn cube, the Masonic cube. This is what the Freemasons follow. My hockey record, 5-3-7, the middle 3, okay? 8-5-2 diagonally is the perfect pitch for music. Now hear this. Just the other day, I'm watching this ridiculous Hollywood production with Donald Trump. I tell you, he's in there he is the Pied Piper, okay? He is in there to lead everybody astray. He's there to create a civil war. So the judge, they announce, and I listened to it, the judge of his trial wouldn't print out this, they use the number 53, this 53-page judicial papers, 53 pages of judicial instructions of what Trump was to follow. Now, his lawyers piped up in response and say, well, we want the hard copy from page 7 to 53, 537. Then they're bragging about how much money Trump has raised from his followers. It's 52.8 million. That is, they're both on the Freemason cube. 52.8 million. And it wouldn't surprise me, by the time they're done, they will raise 53.7 million. Okay? Now, understand also that the October 7th, a very significant day, that's the date of the night I scored the 5 fastest goals, 537. It was on October 7th, 1972, which was Vladimir Putin's 20th birthday. It was also October 7th, 2023, is when Netanyahu, which is their Messiah, the Jewish people's Messiah, that is when he declared war on Hamas. And that was the starting date of what we call the 7-year tribulation. Okay? And if you want to get more information on that, I can send you more videos. John, his name is Christopher John Bjorkness. He was just on Mike Adams' show. And this guy is very, very super intelligent. And his research and my research, my true story, match together. And it's incredible, is all I can say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, you know, and I'm just going to quickly say something else. You know, they chose me because of my numbers, okay? And remember, when I was a 12-year-old, I was becoming a pretty good hockey player. And I'm playing in a little town in southeastern Saskatchewan called Redverse. And I was playing with the 16-year-olds. I was a chubby kid, but I could go through the whole team and score a goal. And after about the 3rd goal, this young kid up in the stands yells out, "Way to go, Herbie," because I reminded him totally of Herbie the Love Bug, the little Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Now, also remember that 6 years later, I'm 18, and I score the fastest 5 goals in 3 minutes and 7 seconds, 5:3:07. Well, 5 years after that, in 1977, they come out with a movie Herbie goes to Monte Carlo and he's at the starting blocks and he's ready to go. And this beautiful little sports coupe drives up beside him and parks. And Herbie falls in love. Can you see that okay?
537. Yes.
See the space in between the two cars? That means 5307. You see, in the numerology, this is what the occult follow. Okay. There's a satanic meaning and there's a godly earthly meaning. For example, when this fictitious coronavirus, which was another Hollywood production, when it came out, they created all these jabs. In fact, I was going to play you a video from Red River College right in Winnipeg.
Oh, no.
It's just a short 2-minute talk, but this lady who was in charge of the rollout of the vaccines, she's telling everybody how happy she was because they had to bring in veterinarians, massage therapists, dentists, and optometrists to give out the jab at the Red River College, because there were so many people lined up to get it. Unfortunately, it was not the right thing to do, folks. And if you watch videos, it explains what is in the jabs. And it's all about transhumanization. mRNA, which they're still putting in the food, and they're going after everybody. But you see, Pfizer, the head of Pfizer, the CEO, he's a veterinarian. They got a $300 million vaccine factory in Saskatoon called Vito. They got a veterinarian running it. And this guy, he's from East Germany. He came from Germany. Now, he was educated on the island of Reims in the Baltic. That's the oldest school of virology in the world. It started up in 1894. And when the Nazis took it over in the early 1900s, they used it for the Second World War for their biochemistry. Just like my uncle behind me in that picture, he got poisoned by our own Canadian military. Well, this guy's running our vaccine factory. When the Soviet Union took him over after the Second World War, it fell into the eastern part of Germany. So the Soviet Union used it to use it against all the East Germans in Dresden and all that area. So, talking about Donald Trump, the guy is a 33-degree Freemason. So was his father. He signed a deal with the Chabad Lubavitch. His son-in-law is Jared Kushner, who is a strong, heavy-duty, serious Chabad Lubavitch. And his wife, Ivanka, converted over to the Chabad Lubavitch. They're not typical Jewish people. They do not follow the Torah. These are Khazarian, Mongolian, Turkish background people. They control the economy in Russia. They control the economy in the Ukraine. You got to understand, Putin invaded the Ukraine in 2014 and February 25th, 10 days just before MH370 went missing. He had a pro-Russian leader in the Ukraine called Yanukovych, who, as soon as Putin invaded, he fled back to Moscow. But they still had control of the Ukrainian Air Force. So they used the Ukrainian fighter jet to blast a hole into the cockpit of MH17. And it's all in my videos, in my book. I give you a play-by-play of what really happened with MH370 and MH17. It's all in my book. They never see, who did they put in charge of the investigation when because they only talked about MH17, right? Well, who did they put in charge of the investigation were the countries who did it. The Netherlands, which is complete Jewish, and the Ukraine. They were put in charge of the investigation. And so they didn't lift a finger for 5 weeks because they said it was too gory. They couldn't handle it. And so that allowed the Canadian military and the AAA, the American Air Authority, to clean up the mess from
Right.
MH370.
Can
Yeah,
you explain a little bit about, like, we talk about the Jewish Khazarians as opposed to the actual Jews that follow the Torah? What is the difference? How are we able to tell? And are the Khazarian mafia a part of the cabal, the Freemasons, all of that?
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, I'll send you a link. If you could put it on with my video, I would really appreciate it,
Yeah, yeah.
because there's a rabbi who explains the whole thing. Okay, it's all about the sparks. It goes back to the Garden of Eden, and when Satan used to collect, he was the golden boy. He was the uh, God's golden angel, Satan, and he used to collect his sparks of life. You see, when I told my story, I'll continue with that. Just hang on. But when I told my story to Thomas and I put it in my book, when I scored the fifth goal that night, I saw sparks. I honest to God, I saw sparks. And who lured me back to Dubai in 2010 after I had come back in 2008 was Marley Thomas. That was her CIA name. Her real name is Caroline Hyde. She's an anchor with Bloomberg, but she ran a spa. She called me. She sent me an email. She said, "I want to buy one of your medical devices." This was Thomas getting her to lure me back to Dubai to get me involved. Okay, and she said, "I own a spa called Sparkles," and that caught my attention. And so, but their plan for me, you see, because my number 5307 in the Hebrew definition means the fall. It means it goes back to the Nephilim, the giants that were on the earth before Noah and after. It goes back to the fall. It means to fall to a violent death. Now, when I didn't take the bait, Autumn Radke took my place. That's Richard Branson, Virgin Air's girlfriend. She took my place. And she took the fall. A week before MH370 went missing, she fell mysteriously off her balcony, 16 stories to her death.
That was
It was
supposed to be
autumn.
you?
Autumn in the Hebrew definition means the falling of the leaves. Okay? So you got to take me serious on this. And please,
Yeah.
if people don't, if I'm scrambled a bit tonight, please watch all my videos. It's worthwhile because that gives you the foundation of what is happening today. Now, going back to 5307, meaning the fall, okay, in 537 BC, that's when Cyrus, now understand, the Jewish people in Israel have a shekel with Cyrus and Donald Trump's face on the shekel, okay? Because they call him Cyrus. Why? Because Cyrus in 537 BC was a Persian emperor who captured Babylon and freed 40,000 Jews and allowed them to go back to Jerusalem to rebuild their second temple. Now, in 537 AD, that was the first siege of Rome, okay? This is when Justinian, who was the emperor of the Byzantine Empire out of Constantinople, better known today as Istanbul. This is why they flew me in to meet Erdogan, okay? That's the home of Satan, okay? Now, Justinian, he renovated the Hagia Sophia. That's a huge mosque in Istanbul. And Erdogan always said, "Boy, do you want to go look at the Hagia Sophia?" And because I was naive at the time, and I'm with my girlfriend Grace, and I said, "No, we won't bother." But I've done the research. See, Justinian created the renovation of the Hagia Sophia in 532 AD and completed it in 537 AD. And that's when the Ostrogothics were invading Rome in Italy, and they were going to capture the Pope. And this is when Justinian sent in his general Belisarius to fight off these Ostrogothics from the north. And they stuck in a Byzantine pope, Vigilius, and he reigned from 537 to 555. Now,
Why do they
also
have to? I'm sorry.
understand,
Go
let me
ahead.
finish the story. You see, because you got to say history repeats itself. This is all history repeating itself. 537, meaning Malaysian airline had 5 planes involved. 537. Well, in 537 AD, when Justinian got control of the Roman Empire, he wanted to bring it down for the Ottoman Empire. So this is when he created, 4 years after, he created the Justinian plague, better known as the Black Plague, better known as the bubonic plague, caused by rats and fleas, which surrounded the Mediterranean, and it killed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. And that was the beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire. Just like MH370, 537, 4 years later, they create the coronavirus, and now we're into the 7-year tribulation.
Interestingly, when you say that Trump is not who he appears to be, I saw somebody else who tells a similar story to yours, although it's not completely the same, said that watch out, ultimately, in the next few years, Donald Trump will be the king of the North American territory.
Exactly. See, the Jews in Israel, and again, I'm not anti-Semitic. I know when I say the word Jew, everybody freaks out. I'm Icelandic. What's the difference? You know what I mean? So you see, the 5 Scandinavian countries are behind this whole thing too. The Icelanders, the Swedes, the Norwegians, the Finns, and the Danes. Because before 537 AD, the Vikings used to come up from Sweden, up the Volga and all the rivers that flow into the Baltic Sea. They went upstream and mingled with these Khazarians. They were Mongolian, Turkish. These were Turkish warriors that fled Turkey when the Greeks and them were at war, the Trojan horse and all that. And they started mingling with Genghis Khan, the Mongols. And see, Genghis Khan, they gave him, and Thomas told me this story in Dubai. He said, boy, you know what? Genghis Khan, they gave him a fresh woman every night for 25 years. So today he has over 50 million direct descendants. These are the people behind the Shabbat Lubavitch, the Dunma, and the crypto Jews, okay? And so Donald Trump, they made a deal with Donald Trump in 2014. Not only did they give him a $30 million condo with a helicopter pad and a tennis court on top. This is in one of the islands of the Palm Islands in the Persian Gulf. But in 2014, they made a deal with him to make him president. And they said, we will look after your children. You see, quickly talking about The Simpsons. I know I'm jumping a bit, but The Simpsons show on television seemed to forecast the future, right? Yeah. They had Trump coming down the escalator with his wife behind him.
There's a lot they did. Yeah.
And he did that again recently. But they also said to Trump, you've got to announce that you are the king of Israel, which he did. That's why he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. So now they're gonna get rid of the one in Red Heifer and rebuild their third temple. They're gonna build their third temple. But also understand that Trump, they made a deal with him. And The Simpsons, for example, they have Trump coming back in 2024. And yeah, you're right. They're going to just get rid of the borders and allow all these aliens in, these immigrants. And so Trump will do the cleanup, okay? He's going to come across as a hero again, but it's all set up. Everything is planned. Everything. Biden is part of the plan.
why did they allow Biden in there and Hillary
Well,
and
so
all and what?
they can open up the borders. See the whole Hollywood production, and you got to understand, this goes back to the Druids in early, it's even in the before Christ. The Druids used a magic wand. It's all about black magic, and the wand was made from the wood of a holly tree. And these people created Hollywood, right? So this is
Oh,
what you call a Hollywood production.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Is
Biden,
it
Obama. See, Obama, like, you talk about an unfair election in 2020. That's nothing compared to 2000, when George Bush and what's his name, Gore,
Gore? Yeah.
yeah,
Al
when
Gore.
they had to recount the votes in Florida, and how many votes did George W. win by? 537. Come on, people, watch my videos. I'm getting a little bit passionate here
Yeah, that's
because
good.
people do not listen to my videos. I know SGT report, I did it in 2021. It's got over 142,000 views today. I did a 4-part series with Christopher James. Watch all 4 parts. And then I did a couple with it's called We the People on Rumble. It's called We the People Constitutional Conventions. I just did 2 good ones with them. And I even had Jim Ness, who was involved with the Canadian Wheat Board. He was put in jail by our own government because him and a bunch of guys from Saskatchewan and Alberta crossed the border because they were being mistreated by the monopoly of the Canadian Wheat Board right in Winnipeg. Very criminal. And it all leads up to the Saudi Arabia and China. They want China to take over for the next 1,000 years. And that's what's going to happen. The end of that 20-page document told me that once they crash the cryptos, Bitcoin by 2030 or before will come down to less than $1,000. All the rest of them crash to the ground, come back. The only one to continue on, and it'll come down to 600 US. So I wouldn't buy it yet, is Ethereum, because it's being developed at the University of Waterloo. But Ethereum, it'll come down to 600 US, and then it'll come back up, because this is who Putin, Qatar, and Glencore had a big meeting, they made the biggest deal in the history of the world. It's on my website. Okay, it was held in Moscow in 2017 when Bitcoin went up to 25,000 US the first time, because they decided at that point that they're going to use Ethereum to sell all their Euro-Asian oil and gas. So Ethereum, when it comes down to 600 I would say in the next few years, then it comes back up to about 1,200, and then it fails because it's insecure. It's not secure. So when it comes back down the second time, that's when they combine it with its original platform, which is called ETC Classic, all being developed out of the University of Waterloo. ETC Classic will come down to $5 because nobody knows about it. And it will become the governance and the security that Ethereum needs. And then it will become very, very valuable. Both of those cryptos will become very valuable. But I wouldn't bother buying them until they bottom out. But
Right.
getting back to this interview with this Christopher John Bjorkness with the Jewish rabbi, I want to send you the link, and please put it on with this video somehow. It's on my Facebook page. Please, people, watch it, because it's coming right from the horse's mouth about how in the Garden of Eden, Satan used to collect his sparks of life from God himself. But when Eve took the apple and committed a sin, that's when God shut him off. And Satan, from that point on, collected his sparks of life from humans, the Gentiles, as we're called, the Goyim. So we're treated like cattle, okay?
Why are they why do they have to tell us? It seems as though somehow in their doctrine it's absolutely essential that they need to drop hints, that they need to tell us what's going to happen before it happens. Is that all part of it?
Yeah, that's part of the Satan's agreement with God. He has to tell people about it before it happens. That's why they tested out the Kraken with Ethereum back in 2016. Excuse me, 2017. They had to test it out first, and they're going to use that. It's now released. So right now they're pumping Bitcoin and all the cryptos up because they're trying. You see, they're trying to suck in all the North American and European public into investing into the cryptos because they're telling everybody, oh, Bitcoin will go to $1 million. It's a lie. Okay, it's not true. But it's almost too late to get out of the cryptos because they've bankrupted all the banks that laundered the money. What I mean by that, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature, Silvergate, those banks were used to turn Bitcoin into American dollars that they could then buy hard assets like real estate or gold and so forth. But yeah, so
And that's going to accelerate, I think, even more so. And interestingly, you point out, they want China to rule for the next 1,000 years, right? So whatever
yeah,
dynasty that's going to be, and that's why they're moving us towards a Chinese social credit system. So
exactly.
this may or may not be China doing it, or at least they probably got part of it, but it's the
Yeah,
cabal doing it.
definitely. See, China's already created a financial solution to the global problem. Okay. The problem with the world trade is that the currencies fluctuate up and down. There's no control. So one day the American dollar is worth this much, and the Chinese yuan, and you got the Japanese yen, and you got the Swiss franc. They all fluctuate up and down. So they're going to bring it all under Chinese yuan, which is backed by gold, because they have well over 50,000 tons of gold.
Right.
And see, Canada doesn't own like gold and bricks.
Zero.
But,
No gold.
But the reason China wants Canada is because they haven't taken it out of the ground yet. All of our gold, we're the wealthiest country in the world by far. We have tons and tons of gold and silver, but it's still in the rocks because that's the safest place. If they were to mine all that gold and to put it in the bricks, somebody would steal it. So they leave it in the ground, in the mountains, there's tons of gold in Canada. Now, I want to stipulate another thing that's very important is that our legal system today is, of course, in shambles. I mean, you got to understand, I think 80% of the American Congress have dual citizenships, American and Israeli. Okay, who are they loyal to? Israel, not the United States. And Donald Trump, who is he loyal to? Israel. Okay, so Biden was put in there to open up the borders and let all these immigrants in, as same as Trudeau. And so now they're just going to get rid of the borders, and then they'll put Donald Trump in charge to supposedly do the cleanup. But he's there to clean up not only like these illegal immigrants coming in, they're all handed a BlackBerry phone, and because it's got an encrypted keypad, they can't trace these phones, and they're given money and all this. And so Donald Trump will come in, he will take over the FEMA headquarters in North Carolina. It's called Fort Weather. please check out Fort Weather. It's like a Fort Knox for FEMA, and he'll take that over, and he will run all these people into FEMA camps. He's going to get rid of, they've already got buses ready to bus a lot of these illegal immigrants out of the country again. But you have to understand who is coming in are the Chinese, 18 to 40-year-olds, the Russians, 18 to 40-year-olds, and all the South American, Venezuelans, etc. They're all coming up through the American borders. And, you know,
Coming
it's
through the Darien Gap in South America. They're coming through the Darien Gap and all the way up that. Yep. Wow.
So, you know, and with you see, the reason they were so interested in my quantum biofeedback device, that's what got me to Dubai in the first place. I created a $17 million deal. 17 is a very special number. I wore number 17 when I scored the goals. Donald Trump's, he says 17 all the time because that's the 17th letter in the alphabet is the letter Q. And Q is the first letter of the cabal. And this is why QAnon is just a front. It's just a paid opposition by the cabal. For example, Flynn, General Flynn, it's either his uncle or his father. You see, that was Thomas's handler, Harry J. Flynn. It's in my book. People, buy my book. Don't buy it from Amazon if you can help it. Buy it from me direct. Okay? Just send me an email. BoydAnderson17@gmail.com. I take e-transfers or checks or whatever you want to do. But what was I just talking about again?
You were talking about General Flynn's dad.
Yeah, General Flynn. See, Thomas's handler was Harry J. Flynn, the professor of ethics at Georgetown University. That's where Bill Clinton went to school. And in 1972, he took a sabbatical. That's the year I scored the goals, okay? In the summer of 1972, he took a sabbatical, and he sent his other double of Thomas. They work in the Trinity, okay? You got Harry J. Flynn, who became the Archbishop of the Twin City of Minneapolis, St. Paul. He was put in to the St. Thomas Aquinas Church. Again, Thomas. He became the Archbishop there in 2000, I forget when, but he was put in as Archbishop of the Twin City, St. Paul, Minnesota. But he was their handler. Thomas was the bad guy, the evil one from the Eli Lilly pharmaceutical family. And who did they bring up to Campion College to take the place of Harry J. Flynn? The only Jesuit school, Campion College in Western Canada, to take Harry J. Flynn's sabbatical from 1972 to 1979 was none other than Germain Grisset, the good guy who is known to write the book, The Way of the Lord Jesus. This is how they work. The evil versus good. These are the Jesuits. So Mike Flynn is a huge Jesuit. So is Mike Pence, Donald Trump's vice president. That's why my subtitle is Trumpets. Okay? Trumpets. Let me read you the meaning of trumpets quickly. The meaning, and this is why I dedicated a chapter in my book to simulate, or to be the feast of trumpets. Trump is the trumpet. He is the last Trump. He will be the last president before they turn it into a whole one world government. And he will be put in charge of one of the 10 kingdoms, which is the kingdom of North America. Mohammed bin Salman, the other guy in Saudi, he'll be in charge of one of the other 10 kingdoms. But the definition of trumpets, this is Mike Pence and Donald Trump, it sets the tone for my book. Okay, here we go. The return on investment of a con, bribe, theft, or fraud. This could include the direct financial benefit of a scam or plot. but also can be used to represent the emotional boost the narcissist or sociopath gets from feeling superior to those they have manipulated and tricked. You should also make sure, you should always make sure that the target of your scam isn't overly intelligent. Then you can prey or play on their fears and maximize your potential trumpets. So this is what they've been doing is maximizing the public's fear on the coronavirus. There's going to be another 7 plagues because when you follow the 7-year tribulation, there's 9 total plagues. So again, there were 10 pages on this coronavirus. So we're just starting out. This is why King Charles last November, this is after October 23rd, the starting date of the 7-year tribulation. This is why he announced to the world that we've got 7 years. And this is when he announced all these things at the COP28 meetings in Dubai. And this is why the city of Regina, the home of Campion College, the home of Richard Leibel, that's why Regina got a special invitation to the COP28 meetings in Dubai just before Christmas. And the mayor of Regina was fighting with who was going to go. We all want to go because it's all about, the love of money is the root of all evil. But it's all about Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta creating their own sovereignty, supposedly. But it's all for the United Nations. What they don't realize is that the United Nations will take over. They're starting it with Biospheres through UNESCO. They're moving the headquarters of UNESCO to Shanghai. So
that's where we started tonight with the biospheres, and we went through all of this. Oh my God, boy! You know what? I always so much enjoy having you on. And I know that for you guys watching the show, it's difficult to follow, but it is so very fascinating to listen to all of this knowledge that you are able to pump out in like 90 minutes or so. One last question before we let you go. And throw your book up again on the screen so people can see because they're asking.
Absolutely. Please send me an email. And if you want to phone me, once you email me, I'll give you my phone number and we can chat about it. I have many, many people calling me from all over the world. I have one of the richest family, if not the richest family in the world, from the 13th bloodline, the Collins family. He calls me 3 times a week. He called me when he was in Israel at the Wailing Wall, having dinner at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. He called me from Paris at Versailles. So please take my book and my story serious and call me anytime, but it's under the radar, 537-555. Now, I want to mention that Thomas, who introduced Donald Trump to Hussein Sazwani, they own 2 golf courses together in Dubai. They're a part of the LIV Golf League, which have lured all of our good golfers over there. Wayne Gretzky, another Freemason who now advertises for the vaccine. He advertises for gambling at MGM in Vegas. Same with Connor McDavid. These guys Connor McDavid would be totally innocent. Gretzky, on the other hand, he would be a Freemason, just like Mark Messier. They're all involved. Because hockey and football, they're all complying to this transhumanization. And it's all about, gambling on individual sports games. Okay. So one thing I want to say at the end to finish it off, or if you have a question, go ahead.
I do. And that is, what does the world look like in 5 or 6 years?
Well, what will happen is they will, when they create the one world order, and of course they want the Roman Catholic religion to be the one world religion, but I think it's going to be totally Luciferian. You will not be able to worship Jesus Christ. The legal system will be totally controlled by what they call the Noahide laws, which will be totally controlled by artificial intelligence. So that when there's a dispute, they're going to use artificial intelligence. Within seconds, it'll say guilty or not guilty. But that is controlled out of Israel. Okay? So it's all rigged. They're building a Shabbat Lubavitch Community Center right here in Saskatoon. They're breaking ground this summer. It's on Zimmerman Road, along with the $300 million vaccine factory called Vito, along with the 17 rare earth mineral processing plant. And if you don't think those rare earth minerals that are all radioactive are not going to go in our food and in the vaccines in the future, you're sadly mistaken. It's all about transhumanization. And so 10 years from now, 5 years from now, I say by 2026, China is going to roll out their global solution, which will be the Chinese yuan back with gold. But it could take 7 years. I mean, it really could, because they want to create famine and the rest of it. So it's a 2030 timeline. And by then, people are going to be so desperate that all, including the BRICS nations, but all the countries in the world will jump onto China's bandwagon, and they will control not only the manufacturing of the world, and they'll control the monetary system. India will also be heavily invading Canada. Did you hear today that 9,000 border crossing security people have all gone on strike in Canada? Okay.
So nobody's watching the border.
Nobody's watching. They're going to bring on the
Come
bus
on in.
loads.
Nobody's watching. That's great.
Now,
you know what else is happening? That we found out that some MPs, we don't know from what party, it doesn't really matter, but some MPs, up to 11, maybe more, have been knowingly accomplices of the Chinese or Indian government for the past 2 or 3 years.
well, listen to this. This Donna Howpower, MLA from Humboldt. I haven't even touched on the Humboldt Broncos. Next time you have me on, I'll tell you the whole story about that, okay? But she's the MLA from Humboldt, and she's, I guess, the Minister of Finance. But she announced last summer that Saskatchewan would have a profit of $1 billion. 3 months later, in November, she announces that, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. We have a deficit of $250 million. And see, the Vito, this vaccine factory, I know they got over 300 million invested into it. They're paying this Volker Gertz over, $450,000 a year, and they brought in another pathologist when the Cuomo, the governor of New York, got into trouble with poisoning seniors in seniors' homes in New York, and so they had to cool down their jets. So they sent their top virologist from New York to work up here in Saskatoon. And I know they're getting at least $500,000 each. And I talked about Barb Porter from Woda, and they all work for Dr. Shahab, and Wapella being the original home of the Bronfmans. Lori Rogers.
About that last time you were on, not
yeah.
this time. But
so anyway, I just want to end it off saying, numbers don't lie. Women lie, men lie, but numbers don't lie.
How do we get out of this? Can we get out of this? Is it just a matter of waking up and seeing the world for what it really is, and then saying no to all this nonsense?
Well, we would have to get 20% of our population to stampede. Well, they try. They tried that in Ottawa with the trucker convoy. And you see what happened. The RCMP, again, they are the Queen's Cowboys. and now they're the Kings Cowboys. So, you know, yeah, we need to rise up with the Americans. It'll create a civil war, but that's kind of what the aristocrats want. They always say, if we can get 50% of the people killing the other 50%, we're doing okay.
We'll keep the leftovers. Boyd, thank you again for coming on tonight. I got to get you back. We'll talk about Humboldt the next time you're on and all the other stuff because there's
Yeah,
so
I
much.
want to do an apology to the Buffalo Party. I put in last time, I mentioned that they were bullshit. I want to retract that statement. I did get contacted by them, and I just want to say I apologize to the Buffalo Party. Mark Friesen, I do like and appreciate him, and so I just wanted to add that in.
Okay, man. Thank you. Have a great rest of your night, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
All right. There is Boyd Anderson, you guys. And Boyd, oh, Boyd. Always so much information. Now, you guys can take it for what you want to take it for. I find it all very fascinating that so much of this stuff seems to fit together. Does it fit together because Boyd is able to piece it together after the fact? Or does it fit together because that's the story? Or are there certain things he's absolutely right about and certain things he's absolutely wrong about? I don't think that anybody has got all of the answers, not one person. I think some of us have got some of the answers, some of us have got other answers, some are completely still in the dark, but nobody has got all of the answers as to what is really going on. Wouldn't it be interesting if in 5 years' time things have gone back to normal? Our lives have gone back to the way it was in the 80s, in the 90s, when, things were relatively normal. And we go, hey, where's that New World Order? Oh, man, that was just a big conspiracy theory. Nothing ever happened there. Wouldn't that be great? Because now more than ever, and I've been saying this to you guys for 4 years now, I would love to be wrong about all of this. I would love to be wrong. I would love to go back to normal. And many people think, well, we'll just get rid of Trudeau and we'll get Polyev in there and, we'll go back to normal in Canada. Now, if you listen to Boyd, you know that that's never going to happen. And the interesting thing here would be, you have to wonder, because you hear all of these countries who are standing up against this or who oppose that or don't want to be part of the World Health Organization pandemic treaty, and they're slowly backing out of the European Union. And but when you hear Boyd talk and you say Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, all of these guys are all working together, and that Donald Trump answers to Stephen Harper as part of that group of 300. I mean, you just kind of wonder, oh my goodness, how far does this go? And then there's so many names we don't know. But one thing we do know is that they are pushing this climate agenda, this trans agenda, all of these agendas right down our throats for some reason. And when you keep asking the question, why? If you get an answer and you get to move on to the next why, and you get kind of a BS answer, you move on to the next answer. They don't have an answer. At one point, probably after the first why, maybe the second why, they don't have any answers. And they'll come at you with this BS data about anthropomorphic climate change and how it's going to destroy the world in the next 5 years. And it never happens. And you're supposed to not believe your own eyes and ears. When you go out for yourself and you see what's going on in the world or what's not going on in the world. But then you turn on the CBC or you listen to Justin Trudeau speak and the world is coming apart suddenly. I think the best thing is to just be aware, go out, live your life as best you can, and try to move away from the system as much as you possibly can. Divest yourself from the system. I know that sounds difficult. It's almost homesteading at this point. And even then, Boyd says they're poisoning everything. So you can grow your own food, but all of the poisons and chemicals are going to be in the soil and the water. And so what's the point? The only thing that we can really do here is at some point stand up and fight back. And we have to stop being so nice about it because the other side, they don't care about the law. They don't care about societal norms. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about how things are supposed to be. They don't care about the social handshake. They just want their way, and they'll do whatever it takes to get them there. And some of you are not going to like this at all, but we have to stand up and fight back in that same way. Punch him in the mouth. Not literally, at least not at this stage. But we have to stop the cowering. Okay. Stop apologizing. Stop walking into a store that's got a trans flag in the background behind the cashier and then going through with your purchase anyway, rolling your eyes in disgust on the way out. Don't do that because all you're doing then is tacitly perpetuating the problem. You're in agreement with it, publicly speaking. So these are the little things that we can do. And as well, moving forward, we've got to wake more people up. Now, I notice that my audience is not shrinking. I mean, there's always going to be hundreds of people watching live and then thousands of people who watch in the next 48 to 72 hours. That's just the way this show has been going. But it's not growing either. Why not? Is it because we've reached our pinnacle? And my pinnacle across all social media platforms and the shadowdavis.com website is roughly about 75,000 people out of 40 million Canadians. That's it. That's all. We need more. We need to engage more people. What did Boyd say? 20%? So that would be 4 million? No, sorry, 8 million people. 8 million people need to stand up to this nonsense. And Sam Field made a post on social media today, and it looks like the carbon tax protests that were across all of the borders in the country, they're done now. Why? Because nobody showed up. We didn't go. We didn't support. And that pretty much tells us everything we need to know, or does it? When we were able to stand up and fight for our rights just over 2 years ago in Ottawa, when tens of thousands, maybe more, showed up in Ottawa with their trucks and vehicles, and they took to the streets in Ottawa in an atmosphere of love and joy, and it was, for the most part. Yeah, I'm sure there were some minor agreements along the way, no matter what the left-wing corporate media tries to paint it as, or those wackadoodles who were suing the so-called convoy leadership. We know what the Freedom Convoy was all about. We need a Freedom Convoy that is 50 times the size of the original if we're ever going to stop any of this. Because I would hate to live in that post-apocalyptic world that we've seen in all those movies, where AI runs the show, where you have absolutely no say in anything. At least not your say. You can say what they want you to say, but the second you actually start to think for yourself, forget it. That's it for you. And this myth of a free country. Us. I mean, we all sit back and think, it can't happen here. It'll never happen here. Don't worry about it. We're going to come out of this. Okay. How? How exactly is that going to happen? We've got to completely divest ourselves from our nice nature. That's You know, I've been on a little bit longer tonight on socials than I usually am, guys. Usually by now I've gone to the extension on shadowdavis.com. Tonight I'm not going to do that. Tom Quagan, by the way, Veterans for Freedom, joins the show on Thursday night. I'm not going to go exclusively to the website tonight because as we sit here and talk about how we're going to make it better, how we're going to get out of this, we need all the people we possibly can watching this. So there is this video that I found today, courtesy of Tim Pool. And he talks about, and this guy here, the Wade Show with Wade. That's why I called Boyd Wade tonight, because I watched this video a couple of times and I was so very impressed. He reminds me of Matt Walsh, this guy. But anyway, this guy talks about how we have to change our disposition and understand that we're in a battle here. And we can sit there and talk about, oh, we're in a spiritual war, and rah, 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 rah. And then we don't do anything about anything. We just sit there and bitch and moan. We get together a freedom group once a week, Thursday night in Bob's garage and shake our fists and scream at the rain and have a bottle of wine or a couple of beers and then go home. Wow, that's fighting back. We need to actually make plans, solution-based. Look at Ken Drysdale. And we also have to look for people who are doing things for the right reasons, not because they want to get rich and make money off the freedom movement, right? Because some people have identified us, this group, as an actual industry, the freedom industry, and they're trying to get in on it. They're trying to make money off it. All I'm trying to do is survive here. Yes, would I like a larger media company so I can cover more things with more people? Absolutely, I would. But I will be happy with this as well, as long as I can get up every day and pay for things that I'm supposed to pay for. But I'm not looking to get rich, believe me. We need to be able to find the people who are in this for the right reasons. Now, to me, Ken Drysdale, who, by the way, went to Regina this past weekend and sat on the NCI Commission, so he's involved with them again, the National Citizens Inquiry. Ken is also the founder, one of the founders of Manitoba Stronger Together. This is a grassroots group that's trying to get people together to elect candidates that will do the best for their communities in whatever level of election, whether it's provincial, federal, municipal. Like-minded people, building a database. Ken is doing this for the right reasons. Ken has put out thousands of dollars from his own pocket to come up with this conference, this solution-based conference called the Stronger Together Conference in Beausejour, Manitoba, June 21st, 22nd, 23rd. He is providing people with, I think, 6 or 7 meals included in the ticket price. The only thing you got to pay for is getting there and where you're going to stay. And everything you eat, that's going to be taken care of. It's in the price of the ticket. So you go to manitobastrongertogether.ca and you check it out. I will be there. There's going to be all kinds of people there. There's going to be seminars. There's going to be discussions about how we can get out of this. And everybody has got great ideas. So if you're looking for something solution-based, something that you can be a part of, something that you can maybe grow in your own community, I strongly suggest that you make your way to Beausejour, Manitoba, June 21st, 22nd, 23rd. This is not about standing around watching Tucker Carlson speak to a room filled with 13,000 people for 90 minutes, even though Tucker Carlson is great. I love Tucker Carlson. I think that he's one of the truth tellers out there. But this is not about that. This is not one of these ritzy, glam events. This is down home, grassroots, roll up your sleeves, let's come up with some ideas, stuff. That's what this is. Ken is going to join the show tomorrow night, Ken Drysdale. We're going to talk more about this. Now, I understand the ticket sales have picked up for this event, so you might not want to miss out because it's 2 weeks from now, just over 2 weeks from now. I will be your host. I'm not making any money off this. I wouldn't ask. I know what Ken is putting up. He's going to lose thousands of dollars on this event. That's how much he is committed to trying to help get us out of this. He doesn't care about making money. He cares about getting us out of this. And one of the most humble guys that you'll ever meet. Smart, nice guy. And his wife is a riot. Rosalie. If you haven't met Rosalie before, you get a chance to meet her at the event. She is a laugh. They make a great couple, and I love hanging out with them. So that is ManitobaStrongerTogether.ca, the Stronger Together Conference. Beausejour, Manitoba, June 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Let's play this video here. What are we in? What do we have to recognize? And then what is it we need to do? We're in a battle. We're in a war. But we don't act like it. We let the other side roll over top of us. Watch this guy, The Wade Show with Wade. I'll be right back after
We
this.
like to think we know what politics is. Politics is a process. It's a competition to see who has the best ideas. Or it's all just a big show to distract us from the real threats.
Whether it's a UFO or whether it's Bigfoot.
I was taught that politics was invented by Hugh and Lillian Hannity to give their son Sean something to talk about. But according to this guy, it's none of those things. Carl Schmitt wrote an essay in 1932 entitled The Concept of the Political. According to Schmitt, politics isn't about debates and issues and process. For him, it's all about friends versus enemies.
I see you, enemy. I see you, enemy. 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 You are my enemy.
See, for Schmitt, a group of people get together because they want to preserve a certain way of life. Anyone else who also wants to preserve that way of life is your friend. But when another group rises up and endangers what you've built, that group is the enemy. And once friends and enemies have been identified, that's when something becomes political. Imagine you're in an Amish community, and one day some trust fund kid drives up in a Range Rover shaking with hip-hop beats. It turns out he and his husband want to move in. For them, things just got political. It's not Coke versus Pepsi, Apple versus Android. It's survival of a way of life or the death of it. And when Schmitt says enemy, that's what he means. Enemies are not people you disagree with or criticize or even think are morally bad. It's not someone who annoys you. An enemy is a threat to your way of life. Less like this.
I don't like you.
And more like this.
Skelter. You will fall. You will not bring humanity down. God is going to destroy you.
I know this all sounds dramatic, but think about the last few years in America. Trump was a shock to the system because he was comfortable talking this way. He recognized that politics wasn't a polite debate club, but a fight with two clear sides. Some people are friends to the people, and others are
the enemy of the people.
Everything is political now. Dr. Seuss books, pronouns, but those forces were around before Trump. More on that later. So why is it hard for us to think of politics in these terms? Well, it's because we've been trained our whole lives to think like liberals. Liberalism sees itself as the solution to the political, the end of all friend-enemy distinctions. They're the girl from Frozen, ending the eternal winter. Instead, they propose a bustling marketplace of ideas, where everyone gives their little TED Talk, and we, the discerning public, pick our favorites.
Pat yourselves on the back right now, okay? Let's do it. Come on. Everybody, I'm not gonna let you stop until I see everybody doing it.
Maybe conflict can be overcome if we just listen to this enough times.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
Next thing you know, the streets of LA will be taken over with Crips and Bloods wedding ceremonies. And so society inches forward, and somehow forward always means leftward. But Schmitt says that when core values fundamentally conflict, debate and campfire kumbaya sessions are useless. At some point, you gotta pick teams. Debate can't bridge every gap, and insisting conflict isn't there when it really is just masks it for a while. In American politics, both sides now see each other as enemies to be defeated, not opponents in some gentlemanly debate. We've come to recognize that politics isn't an intellectual sparring session with overwitty Aaron Sorkin dialogue.
Damn it, how could this have happened?
In some ways, this is a good development. At least now we're not lying to ourselves that this is all a disagreement over marginal tax rates. The sides are clear. For 2 good years, you could tell a person's political beliefs by whether they were wearing a surgical mask. But in another sense, it's bad news, because friend-enemy dynamics at every level of society means that society is not healthy. There really was a time when the 20-year-old girl cutting your hair wasn't named Travis. A functional society depends on people having core similarities. This makes it easier to tell friends from enemies. Having a lot of agreement at a basic level helps a nation function properly, and total openness to everything ends up destroying everything. Congress wasn't designed to function in a country country that couldn't decide what a woman was. But papering over these fundamental differences doesn't make them go away. We thought that we'd reached the end of political conflict, where now we could exist in this neutral realm, where the best ideas floated to the top. Now we've got to recognize that we're not in a debate, we're in a war. The left and right act like enemies because that's what they are. And no amount of
Guys, please be civil
is going to stop that. So how does Trump fit into all this? People talk as if Trump created the division in this country, like he's the one who started the fight. But he didn't start it. He just recognized that he was in a fight and started punching back. He wasn't interested in a seat at the debate table. He talked about everything as an existential battle. I wonder where he got that idea. The left was happy to treat other Republicans as debate opponents because they weren't a real threat to power. John McCain, Mitt Romney, and Nikki Haley were never threats. They sent these Republicans to the debate stage like your camp counselor sends you snipe hunting. They get a kick out of it. So if leftists start inviting you to debate, know that that's what they're doing. But they don't treat Trump as a debate opponent. They treat him as an enemy, because he is. The left understands the friend-enemy dynamic, and they don't give people positions of power because they're competent. They give them positions of power because they're useful. How else do you explain stuff like this?
Seltzer scored a fellowship at the Shorenstein Center on Media, Politics, and Public Policy at Harvard's Kennedy School.
The core of politics for Schmidt is not issues or process. It's not shaking hands and kissing babies. It's about survival. It's about political communities banding together as friends to further their own way of life, and enemies who fundamentally threaten that. He's not saying this is the way things should be. He's talking about the way things are. It's like when you find out what McDonald's chicken nuggets are made of. You may not like it, but nobody cares. Schmidt's view seems grim, but only because it's not the world we thought we lived in. We watched Remember the Titans and thought that racial conflict was fixed forever. Schmidt helps us get past wishful ideals that ignore real conflict. We can't debate our way out of this. People get mad that, quote, everything is political now, but it's always been political at some level. We just had a story in our head that made it hard to see what was going on. It's our fault for believing the story. There's been a war going on and we just noticed. That's on us. Maybe you long for the days when politics was normal, when we had debates and primaries that mattered and nobody was getting arrested for running for president. But that wasn't real. It's like being nostalgic for a dream. Sorry. The left sees themselves as the Avengers, and Trump as that big purple guy. If we don't realize this, we're going to lose. As Schmidt knew 90 years ago, you can't logic your way out of an elemental battle for survival. There are still people trying to act as if the liberal vision of open debate and the marketplace of ideas is real, but they'll never win anything meaningful that way. It's like trying to play chess with a grizzly bear. You may win on the board, but you're still getting mauled. Schmidt helps us understand that we're not in a dorm room argument. It's time to wake up and smell the enmity.
The Wade Show with Wade. You can find more of that. And I thought that was really cool. You can find more of that on YouTube and all of the other channels out there. It's like playing chess with a grizzly bear. You may win on the board, but you're still getting mauled. We can't go out to school board meetings with 12 people and be nice when we get thrown out. Oh, well, and then they're going to call the cops on us because we were so mean. No. We need to go out with hundreds of people, and we need to make them listen to us. I read a story just the other day about some school board trustee who's the chairman of that group kicking people out again because they didn't share the same views on DEI as the majority of the school board did. They're that arrogant. They're just kicking us out now. Anybody who opposes their philosophy, their ideology, we don't have to listen to them. They're scum. They're extreme right-wing racist pigs. They're bigots. And what do? They will do anything. They don't care about the law. They don't care about the Constitution. They've proven that. How many times has Trudeau, a globalist, broken the Constitution of this country? The basic law, rule of law in the SNC-Lavalin case. He was found to have imposed the Emergencies Act unconstitutionally. My friends, that is illegal. He broke the law, the highest law of the land. And we cheer. But we do nothing. Well, we have to get a lawyer. The lawyer's going to go into that system and come out a shadow of him or herself, because the system will eat them up. We have to get more aggressive. Now, having said that, I am not talking about physically aggressive. I am talking about being aggressive with them. If you see a public building, I did this the other day. There's something called the Sturgeon Creek Shack. It's on this trail I walk a lot. And they had an LGB flag flying the other day. I walked in there and I said, "Is this place publicly funded?" "Yes, it is." "Take that flag down." "I will not." I said, "If you don't, I will." And I'm by myself. It does not represent me or my views, and my tax dollars are going to pay for this. Now, if I had 200 people behind me at that point, and this was just something I'd noticed as I was walking past it, it wasn't planned. But if I had had 200 people behind me at that point, how do you think that would have gone? Better, probably. I did make my point, but being one person, and there were other people in there, and they didn't say anything because they're cowards. They're just kind of standing there waiting to pay for their candy cane or whatever they were buying. Why don't we stand up and say something? There's a tax place in a strip mall I live close to last year. I went in there and just started taking pictures because they had a sign up in the window that said, "You must wear a mask to come in here." And this is long after the mask mandates were over with. And by the way, if that ever happens again, that's when we have to start standing up even more, or any other mandate for that matter. But I just started taking pictures. And it's a glass wall, so the woman behind the counter or the desk, she was upset with me. "No, no, no, you don't." I said, "Yes, I do." But through the glass, she couldn't hear me, so I went click, 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 click. Next day, the sign was gone. I'm not saying that's a great victory, but I am saying it's something that we need to do more of. People ask me when I decided to really stand up and start fighting this battle. And, I'm not alone in this. I'm not going to sit here and take credit for anything, really. I do this because I have to. I couldn't sleep at night or look in the mirror if I didn't. And I still get opposition and pushback. I still get trolls emailing me all the time. "Everything you say is wrong. Everything you say is a lie. How can you live with yourself?" That kind of thing. I knew what was at stake. I was hoping at the time I did this, and I had no idea that live streaming and podcasting was going to become as big as it has become. I was hoping to get back into radio when I first started doing this in 2020. I wanted to get back into radio because that's what I had spent my life doing. And so when I started going hard on the socialist corporate media 3.5 years ago, I knew that was over with. There was no way that I was ever going to get back into radio. And now that I see, what I showed you last night with those rainbow flags on all the radio station, Facebook and Twitter avatars, I mean, I knew that I couldn't go back into it and live with myself again because they've completely capitulated to the rainbow mafia. But at that time, I didn't know any of this was going to happen, and I wanted to get back into it. But this was stronger for me, not live streaming, doing this show, but the message of the show, being honest, looking for the truth, was stronger, much stronger. And I knew that I was going to struggle. I knew it, but I had to do it. I knew what I was giving up. I mean, when I was working in radio, guys, I was making 6 figures. I was doing very well for myself. This is not to brag. This is just saying and 6 figures 5 years ago was much better than 6 figures today. because of all the inflation and everything that's happened with the Trudeau regime, or the globalist regime. And so I knew I was never going to get back into it once I said the things that I've been saying for the past 4 years or so. And that to me was a huge sacrifice. And then, of course, there was the loss of friendship, like we've all experienced. We all are going to, at some point soon, that gray area that some people are existing in now, where they don't have to make a decision, where they're not picking a side, that gray area is shrinking. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually, the other side will probably force you to declare what side you are on. Now, people get upset when I speak this way on this show because they're already firmly on the side of truth. You may be one of those people. But I'll bet you that maybe just one of the people watching this show right now isn't. Maybe they are one of the people who are sitting in that gray area right now. They're kind of walking that fence. They're going, okay, I just got to get through this. And once I'll be fine. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to do anything. I just have to keep holding my breath until it's all over with. No, because that fence that you're walking right now, it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until there is no fence anymore. And it's good or it's evil. Which side are you going to be on in the end? This is war, and you need to decide that. For those of you who absolutely know what I'm talking about and still haven't done anything meaningful yet, now, to different people, meaningful means different things, obviously. Share this show. Tell people about it. Tell people about the things that we cover on this show. Some of it may seem extreme to some of you. Others go, Shadow, you don't go far enough. So we have a very wide spectrum of people who watch. And I can appreciate that. Get it out there. And if it's not this show, find another show that's more palatable to the people that you hang out with and share that with them. Because we need more. When I look at this show not growing, it's maintaining its audience, but it's not getting any bigger. And I go, is that because of me? People don't like my presentation, or is it because of the subject matter on this show? I don't really know. Maybe it's a bit of both. I don't know what the answers to that are. But what I do hear some of, especially in the last couple of months, as I make more and more contacts with more and more people, not even worldwide, just across the country. How come I haven't heard of you before? Like if I have a guest on that I haven't had on before. Eloise Bois, for example, a couple of weeks ago. She said she hadn't heard of me before, even though I'd been doing this for a while. And I said, oh, cool. Well, because I hadn't heard of her either. Now, there was a bit of a language barrier. She does her show in French. And of course, I do my show in English. But the bottom line is that we've made that connection and we share each other's stuff now. And that helps. That helps. But you guys, you're the audience. You're the motor of this vehicle. You're the ones that are going to drive this. And if you really want to share the information that you know in your heart, in your head, that you know, but you can't articulate it yourself, that's what I'm here for. That's one of the reasons I think I was put on this earth. God gave me that gift to be able to communicate and explain things more clearly. Right? And perhaps the disposition to be able to do it without getting incredibly frustrated, even though I do occasionally get incredibly frustrated. Share it. Let's grow this audience. Let's get a bigger army because we're in a war and we need it. You know, I've got so much more that I could cover tonight. So much more. And I've already been on for 2.5 hours. That doesn't even matter. I don't know what it is. That was the last show or the story I was going to share. The first one, we've got Chinese infiltration. This came from the left-wing taxpayer-funded corporate CBC, which blew me away. And I haven't seen a lot of this story on independent media yet for some reason. And we haven't seen Pierre Poilievre respond to this, at least not in the press conference, in any meaningful way yet. It could have happened in the last couple of hours, and I've missed it because I've been on here, but I'll give you a little bit on this. Government won't commit to releasing names of MPs who allegedly conspired with foreign actors. Chrystia Freeland says Liberals will conduct an internal follow-up on meddling claims. What is she talking about? Here's the housing minister, Sean Fraser. Glenda put this up on X. Sean Fraser talks about, for a minute here, talks about the MPs who were involved in cooperating with foreign players in elections. Listen to what he says.
Why not name the people? Why not name the people? If there are people who are suspected of colluding with foreign governments, why not name them?
Well, usually these things would play out in a different forum where that is protected with the processes that affords an opportunity for a person to make a defense should they feel that's appropriate. In the absence of those protections, given the nature of an obviously very serious forum that needs to be considered in a manner that protects national security considerations, you obviously don't want to be openly discussing ways in which foreign interference could be conducted, where those who might have ulterior motives might be paying very close attention.
Sorry, dude, it's already happened. It's already happened. They don't need any ideas. They already know how to do it. Why aren't you naming the MPs who colluded with these foreign actors who interfered in our elections? That is treason. Oh, this goes back a year at a government committee. Former intelligence officer for CSIS, Michael Juno Kesaya, this is a year ago, like I said, exposes the shocking truth. Government officials and staff are either dangerously naive or intentionally collaborating, and we found out today they are intentionally, some of them, collaborating with the Chinese to gain power through foreign interference. This is a grave threat to our sovereignty and democracy. Let's listen to what he had to say for 1 minute, 40 seconds.
And boldness, Chinese operators. It is also caused by our own candidates, elected official, political staff that are either naive or calculate intentionally to gain power with the assistance of the Chinese government. The Chinese intelligence service are so good at it because they understand the electoral system, the weakness of the human being, and their work is on long-term gain. So today, I want to be very clear, and I want to be very clear. We can prove that every federal government, from Mr. Mulroney to Mr. Trudeau, have been compromised by agents of the Communist China. Every government were informed at one point or another. Every government choose to ignore CSIS warning either by negligence, self-interest, or partisanship. Every government were infiltrated by agents of influence acting on behalf of the Chinese government, and we knew who they were. Every government took decisions that are questionable about China and can only be explained by interference exercised from within or motivated by self-interest. Not only the sitting government had been compromised, but all federal political parties have been compromised at one point or another. The inaction of the federal government, all federal governments, were led to attacks on many municipal and provincial governments. Ultimately, every government had been part of the problem, not the solution. And remember, not only China is practicing interference. Considering
India also. That was mentioned today in the news stories. India India is interfering in our elections. And the Trudeau Liberals, and before that, the Harper Conservatives never did a thing. The Martin Liberals, before that, the Chrétien Liberals, the Brian Mulroney Conservatives did nothing. They knew about it. They did nothing because they were benefiting from it. Maybe that's why Pierre Poilievre hasn't said one word about this yet, because he wants to use it politically. Ultimately speaking, we are being inundated by Chinese propaganda, and we're being indirectly controlled by the Chinese communist regime in this country. And yet people do not seem to want to wake up to that. How bad could it be? Give me another beer. Seriously. Like, what's it going to take to get people to wake up in this country and start fighting back? Now, I know there's several answers to that, but that was a rhetorical question. Obviously, I think that poverty will do it, right? Extreme inflation will do it. This housing crisis that's about to peak right now, people can't afford their mortgages because their mortgages are expiring and interest rates have gone through the roof. They're going to go from paying 1.5% on their home to all of a sudden having to pay 5.39%. That could be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every single month, depending on what their home is worth, what they bought it for, how much equity they have in it. Will that be enough to wake them up? Gas prices going through the roof, grocery prices going through the roof. That's only the beginning. And when you show them this, what do they say? Conspiracy theories. You got a guy like Justin Trudeau, who is a World Economic Forum globalist idiot pawn. That's all he is. That's all he's ever been. Spouting real conspiracy theories about Diagolon. When everything that we talk about here on this show, that you talk about with your friends maybe, is really happening around us. Now, once again, having Boyd on tonight, Boyd Anderson, an interesting experience, and I recommend that you read his book because there is so much information in it, and it is more coherently put together than his interviews show. He's got some remarkable information, and the only reason that I put him on and have repeatedly put him on is because I believe that he's telling the truth when he says he's been there, he's seen the plan, he knows what's going on. And it all happened completely by fluke, or maybe it happened because of the numbers that he was talking about tonight. I don't know. But it's certainly fascinating one way or the other, whether you take it as truth or whether you go, that was a real good tale there, Boyd. You spin a good yarn. Now, our friend Dr. William Mack has posted this on his X page today, and I was appalled by this because this is the woman in Manitoba who was the lead of the Vaccine Rollout Task Force. Her name is Dr. Joss Reimer, and as far as I'm concerned, this woman should be behind bars right now. But no, instead of being a prisoner, she is the new president of the Canadian Medical Association. She claims most COVID-19 mRNA vaccine injured people don't really exist. Well, they weren't real people, the vaccine injured, but they looked like real people. But most of the stories that you saw, most of the videos, most of the pictures, they weren't true. Listen for yourself.
And while I wouldn't say a lot of people knew people who had had bad outcomes with the vaccine, they'd all seen pictures of people. They weren't real people most of the time, but they looked like real people. And so they saw what looked like these young, healthy people who had had these severe outcomes. And so it felt like they knew people who had had severe outcomes from the vaccine, even though most of them were not true. Misinformation or disinformation spreads way more easily than true information because it is emotional, because it offers simple explanations. So while I have to go through and explain, like, how mRNA works and why the mRNA doesn't hang out in your body and what spike proteins are, and like you don't need any of that if you're not bothering with the truth. You can just come up with whatever simple explanation you want and you're done. It also gives people definitive answers. So when science is sort of saying, well, we think that delaying the second dose is going to be better, they're just hearing like, this is harmful, this is helpful, your body can do this, your body can't do this. And so you get what feels like a much more comfortable, definitive answer. And false stories just spread incredibly fast. And this has been an issue for a long time. Prior to the pandemic, there was a group of people that have been referred to as the disinformation dozen. It's literally 12 people, and they were responsible for 60% of all anti-vax material online. 12 people. I think it's a lot more than 12 now. There's a lot of money in vaccine disinformation. But those 12 people are very wealthy now and continue to do a lot of that work to generate more disinformation and make more money from what they continue to participate in.
What about you? You're a former public health nurse, then doctor. Then you somehow got promoted to being the lead of the vaccine rollout task force in Manitoba. And now, Dr. Joss Reimer, you are the president of the Canadian Medical Association. For you're spreading disinformation even as you speak about other people doing it. That is a classic example of gaslighting. We know that you don't go from the frying pan into the fire. You do not buy a house sight unseen unless you've got thousands and thousands of dollars to burn, or you're desperate. What do you do when you buy a house? The biggest purchase that you're ever going to make in your life. You have it inspected. Then you may have it inspected again. Then you walk through it a few times. You make an offer on the house, knowing that the foundation is absolutely intact. It's not going to fall down around your ears. The roof is in good shape. Oh, yeah, maybe the staircase needs some work, but that's all right. They've disclosed that. You are going to check every crevice of that place before you invest your money in it. But when it comes to investing your life, well, that's different. They want you to take a vaccine without telling you what's in it. And if you don't, then you're a bigot and a spreader of disinformation. And that woman who is now the president of the Canadian Medical Association is still spreading this disinformation. Look at her a few years ago talking about how vaccines are good for pregnant women.
At this point, the early reports are suggesting that the risk of needing ICU admission for someone who is pregnant and is infected with COVID-19 may be as high as 11 times the risk for someone who is not pregnant and the same age. So perhaps more than any other time in someone's life, the health and protection of yourself and of the developing child is always on your mind. So today I want to be very clear. Scientific evidence demonstrates that mRNA COVID-19 vaccines are safe for people who are pregnant or breastfeeding. There is no evidence that exists to suggest that any vaccines, including those that protect you from COVID-19, pose a clear health risk to people who are pregnant nor to the unborn children.
3 years ago that came up. Now, she may or may not have had the Pfizer information about the babies dying. 33 out of 34, when they put that garbage into the bodies of pregnant women. Paul Mitchell put this on his X account the other day. A peer-reviewed pre-proof accepted for publication in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. COVID vaccine mRNA can spread systematically to placenta and infants. Remember when health officials told every pregnant woman to get jabbed? Well, look at this. A new report demonstrates for the first time the ability of COVID-19 vaccines to penetrate the fetal placental barrier and reach the intrauterine environment. Now, they may not have had that information 3 years ago, but they didn't have any information at all. Well, we didn't have any information at all. They apparently had the information and still went ahead with recommending this stuff for everybody. Who's spreading the disinformation here? I think all we ever said 3 years ago was, I think I'm going to wait on this. I don't know what this stuff is going to do. My first reaction when I heard they had somehow rapidly developed this amazing vaccine was to look up the fastest vaccines ever developed in history. And I found that the mumps vaccine in the 1960s was the most rapid vaccine that ever came to the market. And that took 5 years. That was the fastest. And they're going to roll one out in 8 months' time with a completely new delivery technology. And they're going to tell us that it's safe and effective for everybody. I don't think so. But it's the science. You're not following the science. You're not listening to the science, you anti-vaxxer bigot. Yes. That's what they said to us. And somehow, this woman who said all of those things has become the president of the Canadian Medical Association. Is it not amazing? Does it not astound you? It astounds me. Last night on the show, I mentioned that this MLA, this UCP MLA from Alberta, vaccine injured, his name is Shane Getson, wasn't willing to talk publicly about his vaccine injury. I was mistaken, so I will apologize to Mr. Getson for that. He did speak out publicly. This is a while ago now. I think this video came out 2 years ago. Now, he hasn't spoken recently, but here's what he had to say a couple of years ago.
Initially, and it was in my left arm. So initially, no big deal. That was good. Went home, having supper. My wife's looking at me and she goes, "You're turning some pretty funny colors. How are you feeling?" Yeah, bit off. Next 2 days was in bed. I was sick, pretty bad. And then fastened up the chin straps and then went to the Legislative Assembly on Monday. So again, worked through it. That first week it was sore and aches. I was hoping that would kind of alleviate. The next week, the start of the week, my right shoulder started hurting. And then arthritic type symptoms like can't sleep at night, hurt in my ankles and my knees and my hips. And so now sleep is really getting torn down. So that progresses over the next few weeks. And then I went back to ICOR and had my second serology because I wanted to see the baseline on it. Now, the lady had told me that she's, the manager for the place, and she's seen lots of different tests. And I said I had my first shot of Pfizer. She goes, "Well, don't even bother." I'm like, "Well, never see anything higher than 87 on these things. Like, typically, you never see anything like that." So I said, "Well, humor me." My results came back. It was 197. So again, the range is from 0 to 250. So for the first shot of Pfizer, having all these symptoms, and I'm spiking on serology. So whenever you talk to some of the folks in the medical community, they'll tell you what the conclusions are on those. But obviously, I've been exposed before, had it before. The symptoms of the arthritic type thing, so autoimmune type issues, kept progressively getting worse and worse and worse. And then getting towards December 22nd is when I booked an exam with my doc again. Because I was starting to get chest pains. Back was hurting. Lost control of my right arm. I could not move my right shoulder without it snapping and crunching and shooting pains. I couldn't comb my hair with my right arm. Lost mobility in it.
So once again, I apologize to this UCP MLA in Alberta with his vaccine injury story, and I would love to have him on to talk about it and wonder what the mood is inside the party, inside government, about talking about this more. Guys, we've got a huge problem in Canada that politicians still seem terrified to talk about this kind of stuff in public because they figure they're going to be, chastised by the other side, or it's going to for sure make them lose their seat in the next election, whether provincially or federally. But down in the United States, they don't seem to have that problem. At least some of them. So let me see here. This is Fauci testimony from yesterday. I'm not sure who this doctor is who's questioning Fauci, but he is a representative. He is a U.S. congressman, and he's also a doctor who was treating COVID patients on the front line during the pandemic. And he got a chance to speak with Dr. Fauci at that subcommittee. And here's what that looked like.
I recognize Dr. McCormick for 5 minutes of questions.
Dr.
Thank
McCormick.
you, Dr. Wenstrup, Chairman. It's been insinuated that politicians, only bloggers, only conspiracy theorists are disagreeing with you. I want to point out that I'm probably the only member of Congress that actually treated patients during the pandemic from the very beginning to the very end of the pandemic.
Now, guys, if you're thinking, it's late, I got to go to bed. No. You need to hear this. The next 15 minutes is probably going to be very entertaining for you. And you're going to be left shaking your head wondering how come we can't achieve the same thing up here. Fauci grilled by a doctor. And he even plays a phone call from Dr. Fauci or a radio interview from Dr. Fauci in this and then holds him accountable for his words. This is amazing.
During night shifts in the ER. Thousands of patients during that time. And in 2020, I was censored. My medical license was threatened because I disagreed with bureaucrats. Literally taken off the internet as a person who was treating patients with leading edge technologies, developing theories, but doing my very best, but being censored by the United States government for the first time, stepping in and taking the place of medical professionals as the experts in healthcare. Any dissent surrounding COVID-19 treatments, mask mandates, and any public policy surrounding the pandemic was immediately labeled as anti-science. I watched as public health officials and politicians told my patients what treatment options were best for them, regardless of their comorbidities or their medical history. Despite my education and my training and my experience, my opinions were relegated to conspiracy and misinformation by so-called healthcare experts who had never treated a patient throughout the entire pandemic. This has been a black eye on the medicine and has highlighted why government should never insert itself in between patients and their healthcare providers. The American people deserve to make medical decisions through conversations with their physicians rather than politically motivated mandates. Dr. Fauci, did you ever treat a patient for COVID during the pandemic?
I was part of a team that was at the NIH that took care. We didn't take care of many of them.
Okay, so not hands-on. Got it. Thank you. Why would I be criticized by a bureaucrat for doing my very best as a healthcare? This is a rhetorical question. But why? Why would the government, who's never treated a patient for COVID, you can read all the things you want, but you're not there. You're not seeing patients. You're not watching people die, intubating patients right there with that disease in your face, watching it happen, watching the development of this disease and actually learning from it. But I'm being told by bureaucrats what's right and wrong. And what's funny is everything I was censored on, I was proven to be right. Pretty crazy, isn't it? You said in an interview that you gave as part of an audiobook written by Michael Spector that you believed an institutional should make it hard for people to live their lives so they'd feel pressured to get vaccinated. Could we run the audio clip on that, please?
You think can be done about it? I have to say that I don't see a big solution other than some sort of mandatory vaccination. I know federal officials don't like to use that term.
Once people feel empowered and protected legally, you are going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us, you get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated.
Thank you. Are all objections to COVID vaccinations ideological bullshit, Dr. Fauci?
No, they're not, and
Thank
that's
you.
not what I was referring to.
Well, in reference to making it hard for people to get education, traveling, working, I'd say it very much was in context. And I take great offense to this. Miss Allison Williams testified before this committee about losing her job because she sought an exemption for ESPN's vaccine mandate, which came from recommendations from bureaucrats like yourself. She and her husband were actively working with a fertility expert, a physician, on how to get pregnant, and agreed with the premise that she was young, healthy, wanted to get pregnant, and shouldn't get the vaccination for medical purposes. But she was fired because you made it hard, just like you said in your statement, because you didn't want to make sure that the ideological bullshit got in the way of her working, of living her life, of making a medical decision with her healthcare professional. I think America should take great offense to this. That's exactly what you meant when you said making it hard for people to live without getting a vaccination. You affected people's ability to work, travel, be educated, to actually flourish in American society, to self-determine, as we're all given God-given rights. Shame on you. Dr. Fauci, you've become Dr. Fear. Americans do not hate science. I don't hate science. The American people hate having their freedoms taken from them. You inspired and created fear through mass mandates, school closures, vaccine mandates that have destroyed the American people's trust in our public health institutions. This fear you created will continue to have ripple effects over generations to come. You have already seen its effects in education, in the economy, and everything else. Quite frankly, you said, if you disagree with me, you disagree with science. Dr. Fauci, I disagree with you because I disagree with fear. And with that, I yield.
Okay, so that was fantastic, by the way. Now, Fauci, this is going to be the last thing that we do tonight, you guys, because it's already been 3 hours and it's getting late. This was sent to me by Sean today, one of our viewers out of Winnipeg, and this is the guy who's sitting behind Fauci as he was giving some testimony yesterday when asked by a Democrat representative about how he feels when he gets criticized by people. And watch this guy. And Fauci actually broke into tears. He broke into tears. But watch the guy behind him who has gone viral now on social media.
Someone who clearly was on their way to kill me. And it's required my having protective services essentially all the time. It is very troublesome to me. It is much more troublesome because they've involved my wife and my 3 daughters.
At these moments, how do you feel? Keep your mic on.
Terrible.
Do you continue to receive threats today?
Yes, I do. Every time someone gets up and says I'm responsible for the death of people throughout the world, the death threats go up.
Well, that's because you're a murderer, a mass murderer, a lying mass murderer. A guy who can sit there and say, well, you know, the 6-foot rule, that just kind of appeared. It wasn't me that enforced it. That was the CDC. I'm the NIH. Trying to confuse people with who's in charge of what. All of these alphabet agencies, we don't know, right? So it makes it easy for them to pass the buck when they can say, well, that's not my responsibility, that's their responsibility. And the person who was running that institution back then is no longer working there. So nobody is to blame, really. And they continue to try those tactics today. You know, there's one thing I'm going to leave you with tonight, guys, in case you haven't got your fill of this kind of information tonight on this show. There is a great piece. I saw this on YouTube, I think, earlier today. Patrick Bet David. Now, I don't know how this guy has become so successful, but he has. And, you know, he's not bad at what he does, don't get me wrong, but I kind of wonder, I think he's got a lot of money behind him. Regardless of that, he had Candace Owens and Chris Cuomo and a few other people on his show in the last week. Chris Cuomo, who is now claiming vaccine injury and using ivermectin because his doctor prescribed it for him to maybe get past this long COVID or this long vax or whatever it is that he's dealing with. So go and watch that, because he still does. They're begging for him to apologize. They're saying, Chris, apologize for all of the appalling things you said on CNN. Laughing with people about the horse pace that they were trying to take to get past COVID. Laughing at Joe Rogan. Laughing about, the anti-vaxxers or claiming that they should all be locked down, locked away, removed from society. Apologize. Does he? Doesn't he? Go watch Patrick Bet David. That show is available, I think, pretty much on every live streaming social platform. And that's it for the show tonight, you guys. Again, normally I don't keep the show on all the socials all night long. I'll cut it off at 9 o'clock Central, move right to the extension. But tonight, I wanted to make sure that we had as many viewers as possible to hear the things that Boyd Anderson was saying, so you can make up your own minds about it. And then I had a few things that I wanted to say myself, obviously. Ken Drysdale of the NCI and Manitoba Stronger Together, and the host of the Stronger Together conference in Beausejour, Manitoba, June 21st, 22nd, 23rd, joins the show tomorrow night. And then Tom Quiggin of Veterans for Freedom joins the show on Thursday night. Thank you for being here. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Go become a member at shadowdavis.com. Become an all-access member. That website is improving very, very soon. I'm going to have some prizes to give away as well, but only for all-access members. I would appreciate your support. I love you all. I appreciate you all, and I will talk to you again tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central, for another Shadow at Night live stream. Have a great rest of your night. Bye for now.